stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Keep it down a little bit so we can get this going right now. Connie, would you like to roll?
Councilmember Bach?
Here.
Councilmember West?
Here.
Councilmember Martorana?
Here.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Here.
Mayor Lund?
Here. Okay, we're going to move along to number 2 for public comment.
Items not on the
Okay, I'll get
Ruben, Lourdes, and Mary?
Okay. These items are for, this is for items that are not on the agenda. We cannot take action, but we can hear what you have to say. Okay, our first person.
Mary Chacaron and Ruben Lopez?
Good evening. My name is Mary Shaw-Coron. I live at 501 Ricardo, and Ruben and I are going to go pretty quickly. We just wanted to give you some more information about the summer program, which is in the library report. So what I gave you is the brochure of the program. It's a 2-week program from July 6th to the 17th, and the new chapter of San Juan Bautista LULAC, that's the League of United Latin American Citizens, formed about a month or so ago, is very interested in hosting or sponsoring this event for youth in our community. This summer enrichment program was actually done between the years 2000 and 2005, so for 6 consecutive years. The city actually was the sponsor and helped fund the program. And then the city had some financial budgetary difficulties, so it's been over 10 years, about 10 years, and so we are now reviving it. We've raised enough money to fund it. We just need a facility and also the insurance. So Didi Hanania was very generously allowed us to use the library, and Roger has been very supportive, so we just wanted to sort of nail this down and start registering students. So we're only going to do 2 weeks this time rather than 3 weeks, and also we're going to limit the number of kids because the facility is smaller. In the past, we've hosted this program for 60 to 80 kids, and it was very successful. We have a sliding scale fee, very affordable. It's $20 for kids who qualify for the free lunch program, $30 for kids on the reduced lunch program, and $40 for other kids. So it's, we think, a very affordable program that's 2 weeks and also goes from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. As you can see by the curriculum, it's a pretty enriching one. We have an outdoor program. We're going to have kids going on field trips. Some of the LULAC members who are retired teachers will be helping to drive kids. We'll have permission forms and a lot of insurance stuff taken care of. We'll also have dance, art, sort of a environmental curriculum that we're working on with STRAW. It's a nonprofit group that stands for Students and Teachers Restoring a Watershed. So we'll be doing some restoration and planting trees. I can answer more questions, but I don't want to take up too much time. Ruben is sort of the president of LULAC, who's going to say a few words.
That'll be 3 seconds. If you're not familiar with LULAC, I can provide you some material this coming week. There is a group in Hollister that's been around. I've been a member of that for the last 20 years. I'm past president. We found that there was a need in San Juan and Romas, this area, to meet the needs of our kids. LULAC is a very community-oriented organization. It's celebrating its 90th birthday this year, anniversary. We're going to be dealing with kids, with schools, with parents, We educate kids to be good citizens, convert aliens into good citizens as well. We help out community-wise. It's a very positive organization, one of the most patriotic organizations I belong to besides my VFW. So we're looking forward to working with the city and the community and sponsoring this educational program. We have about 30 people right now that have signed up to start the club. 3/4 of them are retired school teachers, still very active and interested in helping the community. So this is a very positive move on our part. And I'm glad Mary's doing this, so I'd like to have your support. Okay? Thank you. Also, could I suggest we have meetings at the community center in the future so we can get our people in there? We passed the limit allowed in the room. I'm surprised the sheriff hasn't arrested you guys yet. Okay. Thank you. I had to complain about something, Jim.
We're not crowded up here, Ruben. We got plenty of room.
We usually never go past the second row. Any more speaking parts? Okay. Move along to consent items. Does anybody want to put
I'm sorry, there's another one.
Oh, we do have another one? Sorry, didn't mean to leave you out there.
Almost, but you know me. I'm here to just make an informative conversation for SB 317, and it is, I got a notice from a Parks and Rec association from the state level, and I'm sorry. As you may know or have learned, the leader of the Senate, Kevin De Leon, has introduced a measure in SB 317 that seeks to fund park and resources improvements in the state. There is a great deal of competition for the program funding among stakeholders, and it is critical that the local agencies sound off and make their voices heard regarding those programs and categories of funds that provide all California Parks and Rec members with resources to address project needs specific to individual communities. The Senate Natural Resources Committee and the Governance and Finance Committee have supported the bill, and it is now ready to be heard at the State Appropriations Committee. They're asking for letters to be sent from all those concerned, especially those in official situations. The Parks and Rec Commission is sending a letter, the Board of Supervisors has sent a letter, but they are encouraging individuals as well who are in any kind of position of understanding the needs of our county. And so I have sent a letter to Anthony Canella on behalf of Reach San Benito Foundation, stipulating the River Parkway as a multi-use recreational trail system. So I believe San Juan Bautista has a stake in the monies that might be had from this SB 317, and that I would encourage that the board or the city council send a letter to our Representative Canella to support this fund, and to stipulate also the ways in which San Juan Bautista in San Benito County, in Canella's district, needs money for our own parks and recreation, what we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we agendize that?
If you'd like to.
Okay, I'd like to see that on the agenda next week.
Okay.
I'll give you my letter and...
How about the first item? How about the first item?
Yeah, that's what we agendize that.
Did she quote a total cost
It's
for
an
that?
appropriation.
I think it's 6,000.
6. Roger can go up to 5
He can go up to 5,000.
without us.
But it's gonna hurt the officers and other stuff kind of issuing,
Oh, really?
So we have time.
kind of sidebar that one.
Do you want to
Okay.
agendize this?
Do you want to agendize both of them?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so you want to agendize both items on that? Or do you want to just do the second item, because we were talking earlier about the...
I'd like to agendize both of them.
Okay.
Would that be possible?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can we
Yes.
move item 7A to the front end of the agenda today?
Yeah.
There's most of these folks, I'm quite sure, are here to talk about that one.
Okay, so I have a motion to pull 7A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a roll call vote for that? Or should we just do it for record? Okay.
Where
Councilmember
you,
West,
Yes.
where you, where are you putting it?
Now, I think.
Yeah.
So,
In front of the consent items?
pardon me?
I'm sorry.
Staff, how quick, how early in the agenda can we put it? We can put it right now, so we can discuss it right now. So that would be a move that we move 7A ahead of the consent agenda.
Okay. I would second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Councilmember Bach,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ridge,
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, we'll go to staff for report.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, as you know, at the last meeting, the issue was in front of you about alcohol distribution facilities and how the city council could better enforce against these facilities, and it was put back on the agenda to give me the chance to look and give you some direction about how we could improve what's in the city code or improve enforcement when there are problems. And so this item really isn't specific to anything that's happening on 3rd Street and the motorcycle parking. Rather, it was to come back and report to you about how to improve the city code provisions. I put a simple code provision in the staff report which would allow the city to cause any alcoholic beverage outlet to get a use permit in the future. And there was also some suggestions for ramping up the conditions on the use permits. That's the way a lot of cities enforce alcohol ordinances, is by ramping up conditions on the use permit and then pulling the use permit if there are a series of related problems. In this case, in the ordinance that I put before you, which would of course go to the Planning Commission then for a hearing and then come back to you for adoption. In that ordinance, there was a series of bad behavior which had to occur and be reported in order for a use permit to be brought up for a hearing and reconsidered. Things such as noise, DUIs around the facility, harassment of strangers, blocking the sidewalk, smoking in the wrong places, etc. Like I said, that would be for sending back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. The other thing that you can do in circumstances where there's problems is that you can make a accusation with the ABC. And this is a longer process, but I have seen instances where the ABC has actually pulled the liquor license of a facility, again, because of a series of related problems, which have to be documented and then reported with a formal accusation from the City Council to go to the ABC regulators there. They can come down and meet with the facilities and try to get them to comply often before pulling their license. And with that, I conclude my report, unless there's any questions from the City Council.
So you give us 3 points here. The third point is really an extension of the first. In other words, revising the conditions for the use permit.
Well, the first would already, it's a permitted, you need a use permit to have a alcohol beverage outlet in the city at this point. In a lot of cases, those establishments already have use permits, and there isn't a whole lot of conditions on the use permits. Not the kind of conditions you see, like say if you opened a bar in Oakland, you'd have 5 pages of conditions. Things like running people's licenses when they come in, video cameras, security guards, regular checks by fire marshals. I don't know if you're quite there yet in this, and we don't have quite the problems that would cause you to have 3 pages of use permits. But it becomes effective then, because then the ABC can enforce, the fire marshal can enforce, city staff can enforce, the police can enforce the permits in the the conditions in the use permit. And then if they're violated, there can be a hearing in front of the city council, and the use permit can either be pulled or additional conditions can be put on the use permit to kind of ramp up the enforcement on the facility.
Thank you. Chris?
I just to be very clear, so number 1, does that affect the use permits that exist today? How would it affect the use permits in effect today?
It doesn't. A use permit runs with the land.
Right.
And I was just talking to Roger about this. In Watsonville, they actually put, as part of their revised alcohol ordinance, they put into it that the use permits all expire 2 or 3 years from now, and everybody has to come in for a new use permit. And I wouldn't recommend that here, because just standard land use law is that use permits run with the land, so you don't really have an ability to expire a use permit. That's a vesting right that runs with the land. Okay. So that could be challenged someday if it passes muster by the courts. We're in the same district. We could look at that in the future, but I would let Watsonville deal with that in the future, and then we can see what happens and act accordingly.
So this suggestion, this zoning ordinance provision would not have any effect on anything that's happening in town today with existing businesses?
This would be for future use.
Well, Well, that's not exactly true. So what's there is a zoning ordinance to declare a public nuisance. And there's a series of bad behavior that can result in a public nuisance complaint being made. And then if that's found to be true, at the hearing, you can actually require them to get a new use permit.
Okay.
So then you could put new conditions into effect.
You can't just arbitrarily go back and change their use permit at this point in time, right?
No, the ordinance provides that if there's a public nuisance, there's a problem, then you can pull their use permit or require them to get new conditions, but not unless there's a problem.
Anything more further?
I wonder if Roger had any comments or observations.
I think that's pretty much summarizes our ability to enforce existing alcohol beverage establishments in town.
So we can't make a decision on this tonight. All we can do is
No, we're
discuss
just
it.
tabling.
Yeah.
There's no decisions to be made.
Are we going to take public comment?
Yeah, I guess we'll move to public comment.
Tony, please.
Good evening, board. My name is Tony Luis. I'm a little concerned about actually this whole...
Your address?
Address is in Aromas, 2
Okay.
Evans, Snyder Avenue, Aromas, San Benito County. I'm a little concerned about actually this whole talk. I think that this has been brought up and is targeting certain businesses in town here. I've donated over the past, I've donated my time and my business to this community, to the baseball field, to the school, to the park down the road, volunteered my time coaching. I've attended a lot of different businesses here in town. The bars that you're talking about, the restaurants on Esther, down here at the bakery. I even had a cousin that had a shop here at one time here in town. And for this council to start talking about, so everything was all good until I come in here in my motorcycle. If I come in my motorcycle, all of a sudden now I'm a different person. This little town here had no problem with me donating my money. I think this thing right here is you're targeting certain businesses. And you had a lady that came up here and spoke earlier about the parks and getting money for the parks. Just want to make a point that if you start targeting certain groups, the availability of state and federal money and county money might not be there. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as my knowledge is, you cannot target any certain groups. This community has enough laws on the books now to regulate any businesses that are here. Don't need any more. If I decide to come to this community and spend my money on the restaurants or anything that I buy, this council ought to be really happy that I'm spending my tax money here instead of trying to make it different, trying to change it. If there's any issues, call law enforcement, call ABC, call whatever regulatory agencies are right now that are in effect. So I feel from the comments that I've heard that you're targeting certain groups, and I won't mention who they are, and I think that is wrong. And if whatever ways that I could help fight this, I will, either money-wise or politically with county supervisors or whatever. This, to me, is wrong. It shouldn't even be an issue in this community. I've come to these places here for many, many years, 27 plus years since I've been in Aromas. I've come here for different events you've had, fairs, everything else, never seen any problems.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Second speaker card, please.
Naomi?
Hi, Naomi Medina, 280 Line Street, Hollister. I'd just at the onset like to ask the mayor to excuse himself, since he is one that's 86 from the bar for making a row and his wife throwing things in the bar.
Well, if you're going to make those accusations first, okay, we can either take this, this doesn't have to, be addressed because
It
this
doesn't
is
have
not,
anything
this
to
is
do
not,
with what we're talking
yeah,
about.
this has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, we're not slinging information back and forth against each other.
People that are against this or wanting to put restrictions.
I'm not against it or for it.
It's okay.
I'm here to just listen.
Okay, we're
It's okay. We should
Okay.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Naomi. Diana?
Hi, my name is Diana Packbears. I live at 6471 San Juan Canyon Road in San Juan Bautista. I've only lived here a little over 2 years. I've never spoken before a group of people before, and it makes me extremely nervous, but this is an issue that's dear to my heart. One of the reasons I moved to this town, I commute 120 miles a day to live in San Juan Bautista, and the reason I do that is because I love everything about San Juan Bautista. I love the little shops, I love the little market, and I love the 2 bars, Daisy's and Mom and Pop's. I love the Mexican restaurants and Happy Rooster, and I frequent all of these businesses. Over the 2.5 years that I've lived here, Rhonda's become a dear friend of mine, the owner of Mom and Pop's, and I recently learned that there's the possibility that her business license won't be renewed in June. And that's why I'm here tonight, and I also was able, over the last few days, to gather the signatures of over 550 people. That 100 of these people live in San Juan Bautista, the other 450 plus don't live in San Juan Bautista, but their dollars are spent in San Juan Bautista. And the businesses here in San Juan Bautista would not survive if it was only off the dollars from the townspeople. The majority of the townspeople aren't the ones that are supporting all the businesses. It's people that come here to visit this town. And a lot of those people do ride in on motorcycles, but they're not all bike clubs. And even if they are bike clubs, whether or not those clubs are causing a problem should not then result in Rhonda losing her license, because any of us could cause a problem in her bar. But is that reason to take a business away from Rhonda that she's had in her family for over 45 years? Her mother owned the bar for 38 years. She's owned it for 7, 8 years. And it hurts my heart that it's at risk at this time. Everyone that I spoke to that signed this petition, which I can give you a copy of, 548 signatures, and we're still going strong. If the people that I spoke with, all I said on my petition is that we, the undersigned, support mom and pops, and we don't want her business license to be restricted or to be pulled. I know that sometimes things can occur on the streets of San Juan because of alcohol consumption, but Hardeen's, Dona Esther's, Happy Rooster, Bear's Hideaway, Daisy's, they all also serve alcohol, and I don't know whether or not their licenses are right now also threatened. But I wouldn't like to see the fact that whether or not her business license is renewed, then who next? Will Daisy's license not be renewed if these bikers then are at Daisy's? A lot of the bikers that come to town, like I said, aren't part of clubs, and I just want you guys to respect the opinions of these 500 and so people, and respect the opinions of those here, and take into consideration that sometimes problems occur at the bar, but don't then blame Rhonda. Take it up with the person who's causing the problem.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Patricia Jocelyn?
Hi. My name is Patricia Dawson. I'm also a resident of San Juan Bautista, a recent resident. I moved here from Carmel a little less than a year ago. I actually wrote down what I'd like to say because I'm too nervous to speak. I'm a resident here from 1 year ago. I've tried almost every establishment in town, and as a patron of mom and pops, I feel as though they're a family, not just an establishment. I've attended numerous fundraising events at mom and pops, and I challenge another business to raise for our community what Rhonda's business has raised for this community. Okay? It's an actual destination location. People come from far and wide to mom and pops. It's an actual draw. If something were to happen to that business, I believe there'd be a lot less revenue in this town as well. Without the business, many shops will feel the effect with loss of revenue. Okay?
Thank you.
That's all.
Hi, I'm Sandra Batista. I am a former bartender at Mom and Pop's. What you're talking about, big cities. Sliders are not needed. I bartended and I ID'd everybody walking in the door. Didn't have an ID, get out. You know, targeting a business, I served some of you on the council in the bar. It's ridiculous. These people, these bikers, they help bury my family members and I didn't have enough money. Fundraisers, Christmas parties, all there. She helped, she made it possible. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, thank you.
I'm here my name is Rhonda Rossio. I live at 1361 Highland Drive in Hollister. I own the business Mom and Pop Saloon at 205 3rd Street here in San Juan Bautista. I'm here this evening because I've been informed, not by the city, but my property manager, that my business license is in jeopardy because of the people that come to my business. I have not yet to receive any notification from the city regarding this matter. In the interest of continuing my long-established business, I am looking for your assistance in resolving this matter amicably. You know what I'm trying to say? Okay. I've received nothing in writing. I have no problem complying with whatever you need, but I need something in writing. I need to know how much time I will have to comply. Also, there is a thing, a constitutional right for freedom of assembly. I feel that you guys are punishing people for something that they have not yet done because they are motorcyclists. Do the rules that you're putting on me apply to every business in this city? And are you not profiling certain groups? That's it.
Next.
Hello. My name is Mike Osborne. I live in San Jose, but my work brings me here frequently. I'm a professional musician by trade, and I've performed at Mom and Pop's many times over the last, I think, 6 years, maybe 6 years. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for letting me speak. And I know you guys are all good people, or you wouldn't have risen to this job that you're doing. You care about your community, you're public servants, and you deserve praise for that. I feel Rhonda is the same way, though. Like I said, I've been dealing with her for several years. In my line of work, a lot of small venue owners are not honorable people. They'll rip off the band or lie to you, and she's never ever been that way. Sometimes we have a slow night. She never shorts the band. She's a woman of her word. I would think she'd be an asset to whatever community that she's in. It happens to be this one. I really love this little town. I wouldn't even know about it if she hadn't brought me here to perform. I come here as often as I can, even if I'm not here to work. I shop and eat and have a drink. It's a wonderful little place. I want to make 2 other quick points. I'm not, I own a motorcycle, but I'm not a biker. I'm not a member of a club, and I frequently perform in those kind of environments as well as others. So I'm sort of like an outsider looking in a little bit. The old phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, I think really applies, A lot of, like your biker clubs and biker communities are really maligned in the media in our country and have been, for decades. The reality is, when you get into those groups and those communities and you're interacting, they're actually very honorable, caring people. They're really good people for the most part. They might look a little rough on the outside, they might be off-putting, but they're not. I can tell you what I've seen. I'm there till 1 in the morning performing, right? I'm there for the whole thing. If you go into Mom and Pop's, you'll see a very diverse group of people, different age groups, different ethnicities, different walks of life, and everybody is kind and good to each other. It's like an oasis. I've never seen a harsh moment in there between people at all. There's just acceptance and kindness, and people are there to have a fun time. I think it's a great thing. I brought some things because I want to make one last point. I'm out of time. Can I get another minute, maybe?
If somebody else would like to give you their minute.
Well, if not, that's okay.
I'll give them mine.
You've already had yours, though.
I printed this.
You can take my minute. Go ahead.
I printed this out just.
What's your name in the back before I can let him?
Gregory Diaz, you got my minute.
Gregory Diaz, you can pull his card and give him his minutes.
My career's taking off right now, and I've gone from local to international. I just pulled those off real quick when I found out about this today of different clips from different magazines all over the world that are talking about my recent CD, and I'm going to Europe in November. If we can make a comparison between sports, like baseball, there's a minor league and a major league, and you get the guys from the minor league, they get a chance to cut their teeth and learn the trade, and they go up to the majors. In the music industry, the minor league is really taking a hit. A lot of these, for various reasons, a lot of these smaller venues that allow folks a chance to cut their teeth and work their way up are disappearing. And so any chance I can to talk on behalf of them, I'm going to do it, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have the opportunities where I'm at now and all the things that are happening. We could say, well, that's just music, but what is culture? What is culture? Language, the arts, your national boundaries. That's what makes up a society, a culture. I think it's important, and anyway, thank you so much.
I've heard you play, and it's pretty incredible. You're a good,
thank you.
Good musician there.
Adam Sanchez?
Can you call out for Evan Sanchez outside? Is he outside?
Here we go.
Who's next on the list after that?
Hunter?
Okay. If we can get Hunter ready for next time.
My name is Adam Sanchez, 728 Gettysburg, Gilroy, California. I just wanted to come and speak briefly. I'm a business owner. I own a restaurant bar in Gilroy. What I heard that she had her business license kind of threatened through hearsay. Once I heard you put it on the table, I heard what you have to say. I completely agree. Gilroy, we have to go through every year. We go in front of the Gilroy PD and we get our business license reviewed every year, our use permit. And we do that, so I understand that. And so we're here, I put my name on there. I wasn't going to speak today because you seemed to table it and kind of put it aside, and we're going to talk about it more. But big supporter, I've been coming here for years. Again, I used to own Al Sanchez Volkswagen in Gilroy. Now I own Amelia's Restaurant. I'm a businessman, been a business professional. I do own a motorcycle. I love coming down to San Juan. It's a little relaxation. I'm a big supporter of all the motorcycle groups. And I'm not in a, per se, motorcycle group, but I love coming down and riding as a hobby. So it's a nice place to come. It's very comfortable. I've been coming to Mom and Pop's and Daisy's and the other restaurants here in town for many, many years. I've never once felt uncomfortable. I've never seen any problems or anything else like that. So I just come here to support Mom and Pop's and all the other restaurants and bars downtown San Juan Bautista. Thank you.
My name is Hunter Suddeth, 1361 Highland Drive, Hollister, California. The reason why I'm here is to say that 3.5 years ago I came here for a visit. Fell in love with the town, fell in love with the bar, fell in love with my beautiful girlfriend. The reason why I'm here is, yes, I ride a motorcycle. 2, I have a lot of friends that are in clubs, a lot of friends that aren't. This is a community that welcomes everybody. We don't pinpoint people if they don't ride a motorcycle. We don't point at them to pick on them. We don't pick on nobody. People do not see the things that we do that are good for people. Because we ride a motorcycle, we get pinpointed as bad people. Okay? I don't tell many people this, but I'm going to tell it out right now. I don't know how many of you got degrees. I really don't care. I started my degree at Boston College, and I finished up at MIT. I have a master's in automotive engineering. I'm not a stupid person. I know where I come from. I know where I've been. I do not pinpoint people because of the way they look, what they drive, or how they are. I look at the good in all people. For example, you have store owners out here when it's very busy. How many people would go into a store to help another person because they feel threatened, like somebody looks like they're going to rob them? I'll do it. I've done it several times in this town for you people. I've helped people in this town. My point is, leave the bikers alone. They're not doing anything to you. They're here to spend money, support your community. And I don't care where they come from, you shouldn't either. Because I'll tell you, I know for a fact, and even though you don't want to sling, I'm not slinging. Several of you have been in that bar and not very well walking out the bar, and no one said a word. Okay? So I would like to say, I think what you're doing is wrong. God bless this town, and God bless Mom and Pops. This is for you, Marilyn. I love you.
name's Tony Islas from 677 Melrose Drive in Salinas, California. Also prior in Amador County. And I'm here for Mom and Pops. Been coming to Mom and Pops since I can remember in the 70s. When there was a lot of problems in San Juan Bautista in those years. But it wasn't Mom and Pops. It was on the main drag here. And the young lady was saying about the smoking and all this stuff that goes on the street. I could feel that she was pinpointing Mom and Pops. I believe there's another bar on that street called Daisy's. And also there's JJ's down the street, the barbecue place, Don Esther's. There's people, all those people that come to this town, we spend money here. We go to all those restaurants, the bars, and what we do, we spend our money. Because we like coming here. It's a beautiful little town. We come here, you're talking, I'm not just saying 500 bikers. I do ride a bike, I own my own business, but I love coming here because I love these people. You come here, talk to them, everybody has something to share. Nothing else. I believe there's doctors, lawyers, all come here to Mom and Pops and share. That's what it's about. It's not coming here to cause trouble. You come here and respect all the other little stores and whatnot that's here. And you'll be surprised if you come out here in a weekend, you'll see all those bikers out there, and they're talking to the people. They walk by, they move out of the way, out of the sidewalk, and let them walk through. That's out of respect. Because San Juan Bautista is a small town, historical town, and a very nice town. A lot of nice people here. So I would not pinpoint on trying to pick on just a certain bar. Like I feel that's what's happening. It isn't fair. If you have something against Mom and Pops with the person that owns it, deal with them. Talk to them. But don't go do this. Bring out the community out here because Mom and Pops is going to have a lot of support because we are community. And I have to also say that Mom and Pops does a lot for not just San Juan Bautista, but all the communities around, all the counties. The veterans, you have the Patriots out here. Take care of the veterans over there. In Santa Clara, Palo Alto. A lot of money comes out of Mom and Pops here. Because the bruns that come through here, they take care of the food banks, they take care of the elderly. There's a whole lot of money that comes through here and comes out of Mom and Pops because we all donate money. And it all goes in that package. So don't take something away that's so beautiful. Because we all help people. That's what we're here for, to live. And respect one another. So respect Mom and Pops. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm pretty disturbed personally about the action taken here tonight because I don't understand it one bit. I think that if any of you had spent some time in that bar in different instances, and I'm not here to say whether you were drunk in that bar or not, because I've been drunk in that bar. But there's a lot that goes on in that world that far exceeds about anything else I've seen in this community. I'm president of the Patriots MC. For 25 years, we have been raising funds for veterans. I don't know if any of you are veterans, but when you need our help, we're here for you. And that doesn't come cheap. That doesn't come just because people want to give out money. It's because people care. And in this community, I've lived in Salinas my entire life. I actually rodeoed here as a little boy when they used to have a rodeo here. I'm telling you, we take pride as bikers to say we're on our way to San Juan Bautista. And I think you guys should feel the same way about us. We have brought our families, our family members, visitors. We bring a lot of people into this community, and we're proud to do it. And right now it's getting a little less to be proud of something that we've been so proud of. Mom and Pops has been an establishment here that stands out amongst establishments. Everybody in this place, bikers, whether they're clubbers, I am a clubber, but they all donate their time and money through Mom and Pops. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that we raise for veterans. People come here and they recognize that. They recognize that San Juan Bautista is the place to come to do something right for people. And to pass judgment on a bar, and I'm going to say this honestly, I feel like somebody got their feelings hurt. And that's the reason we're here today, to be completely honest with you. Because I personally don't see a bunch of people hating bikers here. I see a bunch of people as confused on your end as we are on our end. Now, whether you're a clubber or you're an individual in this community, or in the Tri-County community here, San Juan Bautista has always been a place to come and be proud to be a visitor of. And I would hope that you guys would understand that. I think I'd be ashamed if I was you, that you would take action like this for any reason until you really get down to the roots. Come and spend some money other than buying a drink at Mom and Pop's. Come and really get to know the people that are coming in there. Not because they stand out with their cut on or because somebody feels a little intimidated walking by them. I can tell you right now, I've probably helped more elderly folks into their cars parked along the sidewalks than any person has come to you and said this is a problem. And I'm proud of that. And I know that the rest of this community is proud of it too. We've been here a long time. We love this little town. We want to be here a long time. We want Rhonda to be able to do what she does here. She makes a difference. Regardless whether you think it or not, Mom and Pop's is an establishment to be reckoned with in this town. You know how many people will say, let's go to San Juan Bautista to see Mom and Pop's before they say, let's go to San Juan Bautista and go have an ice cream cone for sale. There's so much that goes on there. I'm serious, there's so much, I'm not knocking them. There's so much that goes on in this community through her that I think you guys should be proud of her establishment and proud of what she does. Thanks for your time.
First of all, I want to say that when I was laid off from General Electric when they were closing the business there in San Jose, Marilyn Horacio, Rhonda's mother, offered me a job, and I was a bartender at Mom and Pop's for a while. And, the other thing is when I was in my coma, Marilyn came to visit me. No one else in San Juan came to visit me except the guy that built my house. The other thing was that every time there was a holiday, I'd work for Marilyn just to help her out. The other day, I went to a neighborhood watch meeting, and Councilmember Mark Tarana said something about when we were talking to the sheriff that evening, that anybody that had too many helps by the fire department ought to be charged, so it scared me. I have really bad brakes on my wheelchair as well as my scooter because my tires are bald, and I've been after my insurance forever to try and fix that. What happens though is oftentimes I'm getting out of bed and I fall on the floor because my wheelchair moves. So instead of calling the 911 and having the fire department come, because Mr. Martirano told me that he was going to start charging me, I called Mom and Pop's, and Rhonda had a couple of guys, including Hunter and one of the other guys, motorcycle people, come and help me. And if they hadn't been there, I probably would have broken a hip, I'll tell you that right now, because I fell in my bathroom on the tile floor, okay? And it was pretty cool because it came right away. Anyway, I wanted to tell you that these people are not bad people, they're good people because they help me, okay? And they will continue to do that as long as I ask. On top of which, this town has been built on motorcycle people, okay? When I first got here, I was invited to come down to a rodeo barbecue at John Alna's senior's house. When I got there, there was a riot happening between the rodeo and downtown somewhere, and most of the problems were caused by cowboys, not by motorcycles. Okay? I mean it! And I want you to know these people do bring money to this town. If their motorcycles are worth $30,000 or $40,000, cool, you know, that's what they are. And you have to understand that these people have to work too make sure the motorcycles still work and they still look good, okay? And you can't tell me your kids don't go around revving engines all the time, because I know they do. I mean, I haven't been here for 30 years for nothing, okay? Thank you for listening.
James Jennings.
I'll announce the next name too. So that
Greetings and salutations. My name is James Jennings, Reverend JJ, as I'm known in the biker community. I'm one of the guys who comes here and spends money. I'm a tourist. I live over in Aromas, just over the hill. We love this place. We come down here for the ice cream, for the windmill, for the pizza, go to JJ's for a burger, and yes, we go to Mom and Pop's for the events. To single out Mom and Pop's in this whole thing is really unfair, unless you're doing it because it's owned by a woman. Now, I'm going to tell you something. The last time we were here for a big event, the San Benito County Sheriff went through and said, I was walking with a cane, I had fallen upstairs, I'm a klutz. Hey, the first time I was here, 8 years old, I fell out of the tree over here and broke my arm. They went through and said, hey, don't worry about these guys, they regulate themselves, talking about that over here. This is the type of community that comes in. We come in and spend money here. We want to support this town. We love it that you got the gas station. I heard one lady here earlier, she was talking about the needs for the park. Let the motorcycle community come to you guys and let's do an event. Yeah. Let's do a fundraiser for the park. I'm chaplain for the Monterey Bay Confederation of Clubs. Let us come alongside you and show you what the motorcycle community can do.
Dina, Para, and Delia.
Hello, my name is Dina Para. I live in Hollister.
And I'm Delia Villegas from Hollister.
I work for Rhonda on the weekends bartending, but I have my regular job in the post office in Hollister. I've known Rhonda all my life, and I'm not going to waste your time by telling you how good a person she is, because we already know what a kind heart she has. She has done many fundraisers to help people in need, and all I can say is that just try to work with us to resolve this problem, because it is a problem and we just need you to help us resolve this.
Thank you.
I'm also from Hollister, and I just want to let you know that Rhonda opened up her place to us. We had a fundraiser for a dear friend of mine that had a serious incident, and he was in a coma. And within 2 weeks, we raised over $6,000 within a couple of hours. Thanks to all the wonderful people in San Juan and all the bikers that came into town to support us. It was a great help for him. And I just want to say that I come very often. I love to listen to the music. I have lived in Hollister all my life, born and raised there. And I want to say that I have met so many more people out of the area. And it's just great to come out. Thank you.
Thank
you. Gregory Diaz.
Excuse me. I only got 2 minutes, so I'm going to make this pretty quick. My name is Gregory Diaz from 1361 Highland Drive in Hollister. My mom is Rhonda Rossio. I am Marilyn Rossio's grandson. I think this is all ridiculous. I mean, to pull a business license from my mom is to pull a business license from me, because one day I will be owning it. I'm only 22. I'm like probably the youngest person in here, and I've only been working there since I turned 21, about a year and a half. And since I've worked there, I mean, it looks a little scary from the outside, but being there, this is some of the best group of people you could be around. Straight up. We have Hell's Angels in here. We got Road Saints, Patriots. We have everybody in here. This is, not only that, that's one of the safest bars in San Benito County. It may look scary, but we're safe. You come in, you have a lot of people here to protect you. I mean, like all the revisions or whatever for the laws, I think it's kind of ridiculous. People come to San Juan and they like to see the bikers in the road. They like to check out the bikes, you know, meet with people on the sidewalk and stuff. And it's pretty packed in here, but a simple excuse me in the crowd can get you a long way.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
And I mean, if we want to bring up other cities and stuff, like Oakland and stuff like that, I mean, San Jose has a real big problem with Honda racers revving their engines. If we want to put noise meters on bikes and stuff like that too, I'll offer to put a noise meter on my Honda because I have an exhaust on there too. I think it's ridiculous. And I'm really focused on memories right now. I mean, we got a lot of good people in here. There's a lot of regulars. They want to call it a rowdy bar. Anyone in here will gladly step in if there's any problem in the bar, and they'll handle it to make it a safe place and a place for people to enjoy.
All right, thank you.
So, Mama Pops. I don't know if this is my, yeah, I think it's my pen.
Roger, is that the answer for our code enforcement now?
I've lived here for a long time. I raised my kids here. I grew up here, so I know what I'm talking about. There is a lot to consider about the out-of-control behavior activities going on in the 3rd Street bars. There is a cause and effect to residents and citizens of San Juan Bautista. Some of you may remember a few years ago when we had just moved to our house on 4th Street. A drunk driver hit our neighbor's car, parked in the street, and rammed his truck to the front of our house, causing considerable construction damage and thousands of dollars in expenses. Another time, another drunk driver clipped our oak tree in front of our house. Most recently, a young woman came knocking on our door very early in the morning, waking and startling us. She was so intoxicated, she could not answer our questions of what she wanted. Concerned for her safety, we called the sheriff to help her out. All this was a result of the out-of-control behavior happening on the 3rd Street bars. It is the responsibility of the business owners, the city, the sheriff department to monitor the activities going on in that area. It is common knowledge where and when this out-of-control behavior is happening. It is no one's right to smoke less than 20 feet from a building. It is no one's right to block the sidewalk and intimidate pedestrians. It is no one's right to obstruct street traffic. We're not saying don't come. We're asking, behave and respect our small town while you're here.
Thank you. No more speaker cards? Okay. That's a shocker. Bring it back to council.
My comment?
Oh, we have one more?
Maggie.
Maggie for...
Wait a minute,
No.
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 What's...
Robert, please.
Hold on a second. Maggie?
You already had your...
Maggie, you've already had your minutes.
So that means that I can't talk again?
No, if at the time, if someone was to give you your minutes at the time, then you can use those minutes. But after your time, then we can't allow anymore. If we did that for everybody, it'd be Thursday.
Well, we can all come back next month.
Next month. Our doors are always open. Okay, so we'll bring it back to council. Jim?
A couple of things. Number one, I've ridden motorcycles for over 62 years. I race professionally, and I'm not the only one on this council who's been involved with motorcycles their whole life, been relatively successful. I live next to Hardine's restaurant, so I don't mind the noise. I work in a quarry company, and we have a lot of problems, never inside the quarry. Everything goes well there, but when the trucks that come in and load out of our quarry, when they go out of our quarry, we have no control over them, and that's where we get our flack. We never get a flack from what goes on inside. We always get a flack from what happens to individuals, and it's not many. We run 500 trucks a day out of there. It only takes 1 or 2 trucks. It seemed like a lot. And so I've never heard a complaint about Mom and Pop's restaurant. I've been in there, I've been in there a couple of times. But what happens when the people leave? You have no control over them. We have no control over our trucks that leave our quarry, but we have had to take extraordinary measures to control them because they'll kill our business. If those trucks run out and wreak havoc in the community, we will get cited for a nuisance and we will be closed. And so while it's not your fault, and no one's ever complained that I've heard of about what happens inside Mom and Pop's, once those people leave, and I don't mind the noise. I mean, I got to tell you the truth. I'm sitting in my house drinking a beer. I love the sound of motorcycles. I even like it when they drag race down 4th Street, but I can't tell everybody else because that's not good. But I've gone down 3rd Street, and I go down 3rd Street in the evening because I like looking at the motorcycles. And you're supposed to have one wheel on the curb. And those motorcycles are coming out into the street where you literally cannot get by 2 cars at a time because of fire. Pardon?
I said, that's not her fault.
I know, no, it's no. There is no problem about what happens inside Mom and Pop's. None. Not the music, not the drinking, nothing.
So the restrictions the city attorney mentioned earlier have to do
Let's-
with...
Wait a minute. Let me finish. So what we have to do is we have to figure out a way to get the city reasonable, because not everybody's as fond of motorcycles as I personally am. And so that's the problem. Once they leave your place, that's the problem. You're not liable for that. But that's where the problem comes from. I'm in the quarry business. I know that. You get a bad truck driver coming out, you get an inconsiderate driver, he can cause you more, he can get you shut down as a nuisance. So what we like to do is figure out what we can do.
None of the commentary mentioned earlier by the city attorney has to do with what you just now said. That's right. It all had to do with restricting a business license that sells alcohol.
So then it has nothing to do with Mom and Pop's then?
Why? She sells alcohol. So are we talking about restricting a business license that sells
Well, wait a minute, wait a
No,
minute.
no.
Why are we in a debate?
We're not in a debate at that. We're going back to our council. The councils are speaking.
I'm done, thank you.
We'll move to Rick.
This is a discussion item. We can't make any decision tonight. I'd like to agendize this for our next meeting, and let's take it up then.
We'll agendize for next meeting. And then we can keep that open communication decision on that. I really appreciate a lot of the people coming in and speaking. There's a lot of great things that Rhonda did with charities and what's going on.
You're welcome.
And
we can put it on next meeting, can't we?
There's just some other problems that are happening that some of the... Hold on a second.
Councilman Edge wants to agendize it, but I asked him, what do you want to agendize? It has to be a subject that we're going to go after.
Okay.
In the agenda.
But we can't make a decision tonight, so we can't pick an option.
Yeah.
So I'd like to put the whole item on the agenda, and then we can discuss the options that we have and anything else that might come up between now and then.
So what still goes clear that's not,
Sorry. It's not Mom and Pop's that's on the agenda, rather it's a zoning ordinance possible amendment to send to the Planning Commission, not an enforcement issue or a revocation of license on Mom and Pop. That is not really, that is not on the agenda tonight and not what this is about, right?
I'd second that.
We are not targeting her.
Thank you.
So this is just a rumor?
Yes, it's San Juan.
I have to say something here. I don't know where you people thought that we were threatening Mom and Pop. No, all you people. Every one of you got up here and said we were threatening Mom and Pop. We're not threatening Mom and
How come
Pop.
Daisy's hasn't been told anything?
Huh?
How come Daisy's hasn't been told anything at all for almost over a year?
Who's told of that?
By anybody.
No, where'd you get it, off of Facebook? Well, you got it off the internet, so it's got to be true. We're talking about a zoning use permit thing. We're not saying we're going to shut down mom and pops. We're not saying we're going to shut down Daisy's or Hardee's or whatever. We're not saying that. All right. Now, as far as outside of mom and pops, like Jim says, and believe me, I've been in motorcycles longer than he has because I'm older than him. All right. We never. When they come out of your place or they're hanging around in front of your place, that's the problem.
I have removed the ashtrays from in front of my place and
That's-
posted signs that there's a
That's great.
designated smoking area
Okay.
in the back.
That's the
But
problem.
Where this all came out of was the owner of my business, the owner of the property, got a call from Mr. Grimsley, and he informed me that Mr. Grimsley said that if I did not take care of my people, that my license was in jeopardy, my business license was in jeopardy of not being removed.
That's because, as a result of your business, it's creating a public nuisance. And
Wait.
No, wait. Let me give you an example. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, there must have been anywhere from 100 to 200 bikes in town. All right, they weren't all in your place, that's for sure, but they're all parked along there. I'm driving, and the guy's lucky, because I'm old. I'm driving my 154 pickup truck down Main Street, and this clown is standing out in the middle of the lane, and he looks at me like, I don't have any right to drive down that street. I should have run his, but...
No, just, look, okay.
But anyways, the real problem here is, and we're not targeting you. All right? We're not targeting you. We're not saying we're going to put mom and pops out of business.
Well, if your business license isn't renewed, then.
Point of order, please.
Yes, point, yes.
Dialogue. Keep quiet. There isn't supposed to be any dialogue.
Right. No dialogue on this. This is not, I read through the whole part through here, and there was nothing about mom and pops even listed in this. It was about public nuisance in this. We're going to keep it to that. Everybody has spoken. They've already had the 3 minutes of speaking.
Can we ask a question?
We will, if you'd like to afterwards, let's just ask questions afterwards. If they'd like to call the city and ask questions of that, if we need to set up a communication, we'll set up a communication in order to resolve what allegations of what people are hearing, we can straighten it out. Okay? This way we can get this resolved. Nobody's picking on mom and pops.
If they're not picking on how they call it.
No. Okay, patrons and Rhonda has shown up tonight with concerns of her business due to something that was on the agenda. Okay? Mom and Pops was not posted in this agenda. All right? We've given the time. We've given them all 3 minutes to speak. They've all spoke. We have listened to them. We're going to open up a line of communication and get this resolved. But there is nothing in here that says we are here to target mom and pops. This is something that is open, that is going to affect all businesses. Everybody's going to have the same set of rules. Everybody's going to follow the same agenda. Okay? We're not picking on anybody. If people feel they're getting picked on, well, they have that right to feel picked on.
Well, if she sold her business.
Just like me up here. I'd like to call the city and ask questions of that, but we cannot do it in this forum.
I emailed
Okay.
5 of you and never got a response over 3 weeks ago, so I just wonder how much good it does to make a phone call.
You didn't call me.
I emailed at least 5 people here tonight and didn't get a
I
response.
emailed back too.
Who is she?
I appreciate that.
Who is she?
All right. So closing this matter, we're going to agendize it for next month.
Thank you.
We'll agendize this for next month, and we're going to close number 7.
I'd like to speak.
Oh, wait.
All right. Okay, Chris. I'll keep it back open, and after the council speaks, we're going to move from number 7.
We need a break.
It's probably a good idea.
After Chris.
Okay. So the issue came up because there's been an increasing, I believe, because there's been an increasing number of complaints from residents and businesses. So it came up as a discussion topic at the last meeting. We had a fairly brief conversation about it at the last meeting, asked the attorney for some input. She gave us a report tonight. You've all come and spoken to us. It's all a lot of information for us to take in. We're certainly not in any position to take any action in the short term. It's going to come back for more discussion because obviously it's a big issue. I'm very encouraged to see Rhonda here. Thank you very much for coming, because one of the challenges that we have as a council is that we can't talk about any of this stuff at all amongst ourselves except here at these meetings. It's against the law for more than two of us to talk about any of this stuff. Okay? So this is the forum that we have to discuss these issues. And I don't think many people understand that. So there's not a bunch of backdoor, backroom dealing stuff going on, because thank you, Maggie. We've heard enough from you. Thank you very much. You've had plenty to say already. There's not a lot of backroom dealings. What I would like to see is a get together with you and Roger and talk about it directly, rather than everybody having to have written communication back and forth, because we absolutely don't need lawyers at this point. We need to have a conversation. I've asked Cesar Flores to talk about this issue on multiple occasions. I'm sure most of you know who he is. You know, this has been something that's been brewing in town for a very long time. I've come to you in the past when it came up during the general plan meeting, the public forum meetings that we had, and said that this was coming, that there were issues brewing in the community over this. And you know, those conversations didn't go anywhere. So it's unfortunate, and I think we just need to get the path of communication open, both directions. But it is not bikers that are the problem. We have a few individuals that come to town and cause some problems, and they are disrespectful of the merchants and the residents. It is not a blanket statement. It is a few individuals. And we have a very serious deficiency in our ability to police with the Sheriff's Department because of budget constraints, and that is something that we have to take as well. We all know, the local residents here know, that policing is a serious issue within the community, and we're under supported, not by the Sheriff's Department, by their doing. It's financial constraints that we have make it difficult for us. Not right now. Please take my card, call me, or wait, or we can speak after. But anyway, I hope that we can have a conversation about this stuff rather than having a fight, because nobody needs a fight. We're a small town. Thank you.
All right. All right. Right now I'm going to call for a 10-minute recess.
Thank you.
activity we have to deliver within 10 days. And then we have to go through a process which is subject to. That was not what I said to the property owner. I told them that if the behavior becomes so outrageous, then we will take that action. That was what was said. Okay. Cameron, how you doing? Good.
they didn't want to listen to Mary talk. Yeah. Especially one of them. But no. You know how many times I've been to city council or county council would have done that? Move it up. Good. Consent items. I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to number 4, presentations, informational items, and reports. We'll start with A, certificate of recognition to Santana Trust.
Council members, we had 2 representatives of the Little Theater at Hardenas to accept this recognition, and they couldn't stick around any longer. So they've left and asked me if the mayor could at least read it, and I will get this to them. It's actually of the Planning Commission, but the chairman of the Planning Commission, Ernest Franco, asked that it be read by council.
Would you like to?
You want me to read it?
Okay. Get you offered.
Certainly. Whereas, City of San Juan Bautista, California, Certificate of Recognition. Whereas the month of May is National Preservation Month, and historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas the City of San Juan Bautista supports the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties intended to promote responsible preservation practices that help protect our nation's irreplaceable cultural resources. And whereas the function of the Planning Commission is to guide the orderly development of the city in accordance with the general plan and other policy documents. And whereas the Planning Commission wishes to recognize a business owner whose project reflects the city's goals to maintain its historical ambiance by preserving and rehabilitating the structure at 36 Washington Street, using a lively and well-coordinated palette of 4 colors to accentuate the architectural features of the western false front facade, extending the economical life of the building by replacing the roof, revitalizing and energizing part of a downtown block that sustained a fire in 2013, modeling responsible stewardship of an historic building. Now therefore be it resolved at its meeting on May 5th, 2015, the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista, on behalf of its citizens, acted to recognize the efforts of the Angelina Alicia Santana Trust in renewing an existing resource at 36 Washington Street, part of the Hardenas restaurant property, and energizing the local economy, and thanks them for being involved citizens. City San Juan Bautista Planning Commission, Ernest J. Franco, Chairman.
We did a nice job on that place.
Yeah.
Really good place.
Do you need that signed first? Do you need that signed?
No,
That's signed by Ernest Franco?
Let's see if that's okay.
All right, we'll move along. Transportation survey results. Mary Gilbert.
Good evening. I'm Mary Gilbert, Interim Executive Director for the Council of Governments. And I have a presentation for you. You should have copies of it. And I'll just walk you through the slides. That's okay. I'd love to have any comments or questions that you have along the way. Whatever works for you, I'm happy to respond. This item's being brought before you. This is something that we presented to the Council of Governments Board of Directors at our April meeting, and it's results of a survey that we conducted regarding voter thoughts and preferences on transportation funding for San Diego County. Our methodology this was a telephone survey of San Diego County voters. We conducted it from March 24th through 29th of this year. There were 300 interviews conducted countywide, and we did have those proportionally spread out among supervisorial districts in the county, so we tried to get a good geographical coverage that way. We looked at a couple of different approaches to a potential sales tax measure for transportation, and we conducted the interviews in English and in Spanish. Some of the key findings that we had were that voters recognize the need for investment in transportation. Nearly 80% of people that we talked to recognize that there is a need for additional transportation funding in San Bernardino County. We asked a question about support for a transportation sales tax. So that would be a tax, half-cent sales tax for transportation-specific projects, where there would be an expenditure plan and specifically identified projects, whether that be a highway project or even just local street and road infrastructure improvements. And we had 75% of voters supporting that concept. And we also found, we took some questions about overall voter thoughts regarding specific taxes, and so I'll talk more about that as I go through the presentation. So I'm on slide number 5 if you want, if I need to orient you a little bit. So the first question that we asked, so I'll basically be going through the general set of questions that we asked in the survey and talking about the results that we received for the different questions. The first thing we asked is just used to gauge general optimism in the county among voters, kind of take the temperature of the people that we're talking to. So we asked, in general, do you feel that things in San Diego County are generally going in the right direction, or do you feel that things have gotten a little bit off track? So we found that 49% of those we asked thought things were going in the right direction, and that's up from 42% from a similar poll that was conducted in June of 2013. So that's something that when we talked to EMC Research, who did the polling, that they noted that that's common when the economy is doing better. Voters tend to think that things are just in general going better. Next slide, we asked about top-of-mind problems. This was an open-ended question. On the top of your mind, what are your main concerns for San Benito County? So we had water shortage, water quality, and those types of responses at the highest, with 17% of people answering something along those lines, and that's not surprising given the drought conditions that we're in. Overdevelopment and population growth had 12%, crime was at 10%, that's down from 20% in 2013. And then as we go down the list, we get to road maintenance, which is, we had 5% of folks saying that that was of top-of-mind concern. So it's up there. It's not at the highest, but it is there. In terms of a need for additional funding, 4 out of 5 voters stated that yes, they believe there is a need for additional transportation funding in San Benito County. 79% of folks answered that they thought either there was a great need or some need, and with 50% of those saying great need. So it's a really strong intensity of folks who think that. Then we moved on to support specifically for a sales tax measure for transportation. We did this, the methodology was to use a split sample. So some people heard a question about one specific project for a transportation measure being asked first, and then a follow-up question of just being more of a general sales tax measure. But bottom line is the results were the same regardless of the split sample. So we had folks asked if they would support one project sales tax measure specific for the Highway 25 widening. And so to give a little more context to this, the survey effort that we underwent at COG did come out of some discussions we've been having about the importance of widening Highway 25 between Hollister and Gilroy for the entire county. So that was kind of where we were going with this question. So we only got 67% of folks, or excuse me, 65% of folks supporting, saying they would support a measure just for Highway 25. Then we moved on and we said, okay, well, would you support a sales tax measure for a multitude of transportation projects, which could include Highway 25, road repairs, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and also transit, public transportation improvements. There we saw 75% of voters supporting that concept and 24% saying no, they would not support that. And again, regardless of the split sample methodology, the results were the same. So the next slide, which is slide 11, just kind of reiterates that a multi-project approach is really what would be preferred by voters for a transportation sales tax. We have some demographic information starting on slide 12. The support was highest among younger voters under 50 years old, and Hispanic voters were the highest supporting, but overall, of course, we've got 75% in support. No one specific demographic group was very low supporting. We also looked at by political party. Of course, we've got more Democratic support. That's not surprising to us, I guess, 88%. However, we still had pretty high support among Republicans, with 55% of Republican voters supporting. One of the questions that comes up when you're looking at a sales tax measure is which election to go after. As we know, we're coming up on the presidential election in 2016. So it's on a lot of folks are looking at that as a possible option for a measure because it's going to be a more likely higher voter turnout at that election.
So do they propose that they go through a presidential election to put that on the ballot? They'd have a better chance of getting that then?
It depends. It really depends on your measure and what types of things you're going after. But I think yes, that the general thought is a presidential election has higher voter turnout, and so you have more eyes on that ballot who are going to be able to vote in favor of it, versus someone who might stay home and decide not to vote and doesn't even realize the measures on the ballot potentially. They're not voting.
So at 0.5%, we're looking at 50 cents on $100.
That's right. And the results for our poll showed that based on past voting behavior of the folks who answered, whether it was a June 2016 election, which is the presidential primary, or the November 2016 election, we would likely get high support for a sales tax measure regardless of the election. So that has been a question: would would a measure go in November or in June? And then we just got some more information about funding priorities for transportation. Did you have a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm just listening to you.
Okay, sorry.
Didn't mean to.
On slide 15, we saw that 87% of respondents said that maintaining roads and repairing potholes was a really high priority. And then improving transportation for youth, seniors, and people with disabilities got 68%. And then the Highway 25 widening had 66% of folks saying that it was a higher priority. The next slide, number 16, is just we looked at comparisons over the 2013, compared to the 2013 survey that was done, and things are generally about the same. Maintaining roads and repairing potholes was really highly ranked back then, too. Then we went and asked kind of the same question in a different way, and we gave 4 different transportation needs, and we asked the folks to rank them kind of against each other. So we saw there, when we asked people to do that Highway 25 inched up a little bit and got 41% of people ranking it as the highest priority, with local street and road maintenance as the second highest priority, and then those two numbers kind of switch for the second highest priority being road maintenance, and then folks rank Highway 25 just under that. So it's kind of just a different way of asking the same question. It just kind of shows us there that it's not quite as clear when they're asked to rank against each other what the real major priority is there. And I think that what we're taking from that at COG is that all of these are important needs, and that the voters are recognizing those transportation needs being important. Again, gauging kind of the attitude of voters, we asked about growth, and if they agreed or disagreed with some statements regarding growth. 46% of respondents thought there was too much residential growth and development in their area. And we were kind of split 50-50 on the statement, asking if improving the roads in San Benito County would just lead to more growth and sprawl. So we understanding that that's a concern in the county. We wanted to kind of take that temperature. And then we have on slide 19 some more questions about tax attitudes, some more statements that we read. 72% of people agreed that it was crucial to have high-quality roads and transit, even if it meant raising taxes. But then we had another 47% saying, you know what, taxes are high enough, I'll vote against any increase. And these are the same people. So some people kind of, answer two different ways in different questions, and we recognize that. And then this question, which I think is pretty important, is the statement was, I trust our local elected officials to properly manage our tax dollars. And it's not too bad. We have 51% saying that they disagreed with that statement. And there's more intensity on the strongly disagree side, with 31% saying that. So, and kind of the takeaway from that is that if we have a specific plan in place for a sales tax, there may be some more comfort there among voters that, hey, we know what we're voting on, we have a plan, versus just a tax where they're not sure where their dollars would go. And then finally, we just took some questions about transportation habits, and it's nothing too surprising given that we know that a lot of folks commute. We had 64% of the people who answered the poll were commuters. Commuting to work at least 3 times a week. And then we asked about their travel destinations, and Santa Clara County was the highest, with 41% of folks who commute to Santa Clara County, and then San Benito with 38%, and then some going to Monterey, Santa Cruz, or other areas.
This 2% is we don't know where they're going.
Yeah, the lost 2%.
No, this is we don't know. Yeah. So in general, again, the results kind of support the county moving forward with potentially looking at the next steps toward a 2016 transportation sales tax. And we recognize that if we were to move forward with that, the expenditure plan would have to be a diverse plan with a lot of different projects in order to get voter support. So just to conclude also with just kind of where COG is at with this, I'm bringing this presentation to you. It's been to the San Benito County Board of Supervisors, and we'll be going to Hollister City Council when they reschedule their meeting. And then the COG board will also be talking about this again on Thursday afternoon.
What did I saw something about the Board of Supervisors voted on this today? Or?
The Board of Supervisors did have a discussion today about sales tax, and there were a few different options that they were weighing in terms of...
So they didn't make a decision?
There was, no.
Did you have any type of feeling of what direction they were going?
Well, they were responding to what happened at the Intergovernmental Committee meeting.
Okay,
So some of those questions in terms of some options of doing a general sales tax and what that would look like for either just the unincorporated county or the entire county, including the city of Hollister. So there was some discussion just among the different options, and I think that what I heard from that discussion was the need for more information and the potential for a joint meeting of the two councils and the San Benito County Board of Supervisors.
Which they requested.
My question is,
let me start with Jim here.
It all came, you did all 5 supervisorial districts. Did anybody check the zip codes? Because all 5 supervisorial districts have a part of Hollister in them. But did anyone look at 95004 or any of those districts? Because I don't know what we're going to do to get votes on the other side of Highway 101. And even here in San Juan Bautista at 95045, how many of those votes were there? Because you could literally take samples of all 5 supervisorial districts right out of Hollister itself. And how many from South County? How many from the eastern part of the county?
And that's a really good question. I wish I had the answer off the top of my head, but I will look into that and
Yeah, it'd be nice to know.
right. And I know that we do have that information.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it would, they would have made sure of that, but I'll double check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think widening 25 is a hard sell for people who live on Fairview, live in South County, live in this town, live on the other side of the freeway.
Yeah, I think the only time we see 25 is when we're on 101.
Yeah, and it's crowded stopped.
And if I may, one kind of takeaway that I'd like to have as well as information about that. What are some projects that might be more palatable? If we are going to go for an expenditure plan for sales tax, we'll want to be reaching out to the community and making sure that we know what's really needed and wanted in all areas of the county, and not just Hollister, certainly not just Highway 25.
So you're on COG.
Yes.
So.
But I would say that specifically Anthony and myself both said for this to even fly, we have to do some kind of a survey of the streets in San Juan Bautista, and a lot of people forget how far Supervisor District 2 goes. It goes all the way to Aromas. So to get all those people on board, I mean, if they came and said, you want a sales tax 0.5% for Highway 25, you're not going to get one vote here.
No.
You get one.
Maybe. I don't. I couldn't care less about it. But so that's why we kind of left that as it had to be. We had to identify to convince people. We had to identify. Okay, the whatever the money generated, this portion of it is going to go to San Juan Bautista. This portion of it is going to go to Supervisor District 2. And that takes a survey to determine what it is you need. So.
Yeah, with the developing an expenditure plan, all of those questions kind of can be discussed and then actually put on the ballot. Especially even in terms of how things get distributed to the different jurisdictions. There's still a lot of control there, I think.
Because the other thing is, there's enough votes in Hollister to pass this.
Well, very honestly, that's a concern. Because if you said, okay, it's only going to be for 25,
you'd still get the votes.
There's a good chance that everybody in Hollister would say, yeah, I want 25 widened. And, well, like they did with Measure A.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's supposed to sunset unless they revisit that and bring it back again.
Yeah, I think Measure A is going to sunset, right? I mean, it's over with.
Measure A has been over with for a while.
Yeah,
that was
there's some money
previous
left
transportation tax. That sunsetted several years ago.
But, like I said, the only fair way to do it is to make sure that it gets all over the county.
Yeah. Now the other part too is, with Hollister, with their Measure E, that's going to sunset too.
Yeah.
When was that break going to be? Are they going to want to? They're going to be up at.
I think that ends in 16 or 18. I can't remember. It's 18, I think. Yeah.
And that's some of the questions that they're talking about this morning as well.
Anybody else on the council? Chris?
0.5% sales tax increase, what kind of dollars does that generate for the county?
Oh, yeah,
Right, so just roughly, and based on some economic projections that I found through the Department of Transportation, it was about 3.4 million starting in 2017. Which is when the tax would actually start being assessed. So if we look at today's dollars, it's a little lower than that, 2.something million, but about 3.4.
And the cheap tag on
Cost of Highway 25 expansion?
It's, right now the full.
It'll only take 100 years to pay for it.
200 million, so it's not something that that could be funded with the sales tax. two things there. One, we're looking at decreasing the scope of that project and looking at a smaller price tag. And the other thing is with dollars like this, there's the potential to leverage. So you have the sales tax dollars come in and you can either bond or you can leverage against state funding. Right now there's a state Senate Bill 16 that's out being reviewed, and one of the provisions in that includes a 5% set aside for counties that are new self-help counties, which is what they're called when they assess a sales tax against themselves. So, you know, we could tap into those dollars and say, hey, here's our sales tax that we have, and then, you know, get some more for different projects in the county.
But it does require that sales tax be earmarked, be specific for transportation.
As it reads right now in the Senate bill that's out right now, it does say that it has to be a transportation tax.
Thank you.
And the other question is, why doesn't Caltrans pay for some of this out of gas tax?
Yeah, right.
Not one penny.
And that's because they're not on the constraint list?
No, it's because they just refuse to do it. They said it's a local road, it only serves Hollister, why would they pay for it?
But it's a state highway.
Yeah. But, I mean, it seemed to me that we would go, we might get the tax, but we might also go lobbying.
I'm for it.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Mary, for coming up.
See you Thursday.
Okay, we'll go to item C, monthly financial statements and treasurer's report. I don't see Chuck here, so if I can go to staff.
Just kind of review, the general fund is somewhat in a negative position, but we expect that. We haven't received the second payment of our property tax, and that should be coming in a minute now, with the April 10th deadline. Enterprise fund, again, is floundering with the cash flow. However, the overall cash balance is holding itself pretty well, only because we've kind of cut back on most of the capital improvements this year as we go forward. The general fund revenues were, which were above what we budgeted by $26,000, which holds its own there. And the general fund of the enterprise expenditures were $986, and that's a little bit higher than we budgeted. So, enterprise fund revenues were $1.362, which was lower than we budgeted by about $115,000. So we're finding that the conservation is affecting the water. Enterprise fund expenditures were 1.452, which was lower than we budgeted by 117. Again, we've had, deferred some of the major capital improvement programs as we watch the revenues in this last quarter come forth. Any questions that we got? It's a question of cash management and cash flow, how we look at both general fund and the enterprise funds.
Well, same thing we get with the hospital. The money's come in chunks and they go out a little at a time, so we never know where we are. You got to watch it for 2 years before you get any kind of feel for what it's doing. Maybe you still don't know.
And warrant list, there are several things, and go and ask. I think we have answers to most of them. In terms of, there's a lot of refunds from people that had tied up the community center and then backed out. So you'll see some of the things from Valencia and Candelaria that are refunds where they deposit the money and then they get the refund back. The rebates.
Kind of money we never had.
Yeah, right. The San Juan committee that's there is that once they receive their 5 nonprofit status and everything,
501c.
then they submitted us their budget and their proposals for the $3,000, and then we paid that, where they have aggressive program for getting advertisement and getting the word out to the things. And I think they spoke to the last meeting where going through and trying to profile the city of San Juan in a lot of the other communities. I think Richard's here, and if you need to, he can speak to that.
Okay, I'll bring him up. I'll bring you up.
We are a 501c now.
Yeah.
We did ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. And let's see, little work at the wastewater treatment plant from Alexander Electrical. The geotechnical, that is the earthquake analysis, and that's billed through us, and then that's reimbursed through the subdivider. So that's totally reimbursed.
So we have the Secretary of State for $1. We mail that each month. Can we just do it once a year?
No, you do it every month.
We just send them $12 at the beginning of the year. We probably save,
43 cents a stamp every time, yeah.
We save an extra $5 we can pay for 6 months.
Yeah.
See, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Save the pennies and dollars will take care of themselves.
Anybody else with warrants?
I don't have any questions.
Nothing?
No. I'm
Okay.
good.
Chris?
No, I'll take that.
Okay. All right, move along to item D, the sheriff's report. That's all right.
No, Captain Taylor said if you guys have any questions, to let me know. I'll be more happy to get them.
Okay.
We are delighted that we're seeing more
Police
patrolling and police stops for vehicle violations, and I think that's to be commended. We've noticed it, and a lot of the community has noticed it.
Yeah. Do we have a numbers report at all, Roger?
No.
No statistical?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything in the kind of going on in the city and county that maybe we should be aware of, or something we can address to the public?
I've been assigned to courts for the last couple months, so I really don't know a whole bunch what's going on in the community. I haven't heard too many thefts that have been going on. Worked a couple Fridays coming out here and issuing some citations when I'm free of court. I think a couple of us have issued around 20 citations for stop sign violations throughout the city.
Great. All right, appreciate your hard work. Thank you. Move along to the fire chief's report. If our volunteer fire department chief would like to come up and
Nothing's really happened yet. We're still in discussions. Gathering information as far as calls and costs and those sort of things.
Okay.
We haven't yet. Hopefully by the end of the week we'll have the numbers.
All right, that'd be great. Anything? Council have anything? Fire chief, any questions? All right. Thank you, chief. We'll move on to the library report. Staff?
Pretty straightforward.
All right. Who took that book? You want to move along for administrative report?
Again, just to let you know, we have a replacement for our maintenance worker, and we're back to our normal force, and now we're going to start doing some tree trimming and stuff like that, and weed abatement. I think that's good. Tony is on staff, started Monday, and I've met with this public works staff, and we're working with Michelle and Connie to develop the citations. Tonight you will make the second reading for the regulations restricting water throughout the city, and that then will become effective 30 days after, and then it'll be enforced rigorously. And so they're gearing up and developing the eyes and ears to where we'll be watching it very closely. Planning, our planner is scheduled to come in tomorrow. He's a planner from Porterville. We had the interviews about a month ago, and he was selected as the #1 candidate, and so Rudy will be here, and we'll be introducing him shortly, probably at our Thursday meeting, special meeting for our budget, so he can get acquainted, and he's got a lot of legwork to start catching up on.
Great. That would be great.
And other than that, our nitrates are holding good on our well number 2. Again, it's being tested on a weekly basis. And I have a commitment from the Majority Brothers. They're going to come in at the beginning of next week to drill a profile test well. So.
Another test well?
Mm-hmm. Annexations, council and the plan commission has approved several annexations, and I've been preoccupied with getting a lot of this stuff for refinancing as well as the budget, but I've got all of them packaged up, and now I just need time, and hopefully I can get Rudy to help me finish up the applications, and then we can get them all filed with LAFCO. And there are the well number 3 site, the reservoir up on Lawston, the cemetery, the 1.08 acres in the north end of town, the 104 acres over at McCollum and Monterey Street by the Valero, 12.5 acres of the right next to well number 3, that's owned by Dale Koch, and the 18 acres that's adjacent to and in westerly of Dale Koch's property, the 18 acres, and that's all. Both of those properties are zoned industrial district.
Okay. That's it? Okay. Moving along, we'll bring it back to council for public meetings and city council committee reports. Chris?
The intergovernmental, we've got an agenda item 7B that I think that'll address the discussion about sales tax.
Okay.
That came out of that meeting, and I did not attend the MVAC this week, there this morning.
No, you heard it. The biggest thing that came out of COG was the sales tax thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jim?
Yeah.
No meetings?
I can't remember them. They're all a blur in my mind.
I didn't have a meeting.
LAFCO
didn't meet last month.
Yeah. Pretty much on intergovernment, me and Chris, and fire meeting pretty much was the...
Oh, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that was it. That, pretty much reports from the fire chief on call volume. We had a couple questions that he's going to get back to us about. We're still in negotiations and trying to figure out a plan for our fire report and fire contracts that are coming up at the end of June. And tomorrow I have a meeting with Unified Monterey Air Quality Control, and so I will be reporting on that next month. That was all the meetings that I had. If we'd like to, how about?
Yeah, Neighborhood Watch did not have a meeting this month. However, I did put an email out to everybody asking for volunteers to paint red curbs, and had probably 12+ people offer their services. So I'll get together with Roger and kind of figure out a plan on how to address that. I got an email from someone saying the Boy Scouts are already doing it, but I know we had discussed they're not doing the high traffic areas, and I think that's probably where the Neighborhood Watch group is probably a little better set. So I guess I'll make an arrangement with Roger to come down, meet, kind of get a game plan together, and then throw it back to the group, and so we can get some red paint on the ground.
That'd be great. We get to pick our curb.
I'm sorry?
No, nothing.
All right. Any other neighborhood committees? Nothing else? Okay, we'll move along to number 5, public hearings, considering ordinance 2015.
And
Connie?
number?
18? Amending the Rancho Vista subdivision development agreement, second reading and approval. I'll go to staff for.
I'll make a motion that we,
We need to have.
oh, we have staff report
Public
first.
comment.
Public comment.
Yeah, that basically is a reflection of the amendments that we did and were incorporated into the final agreement. And this is the second reading, and it'll then become official 30 days after as an ordinance. It also is to be noted that Bob's in the audience, and he was here today to notarize his signature. We went Friday to record the document, but they needed notary signatures of both Connie and yourself and Bob, and so we got everything on board, and we'll hopefully tomorrow go in and record it.
That's what I signed today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to open this up for a public comment. Does anybody would like to come up and address this issue? Okay. I guess we'll move it along as for a motion.
Now I make a motion. Yeah. We have an ordinance from the City of Council of the City of San Juan Bautista approving of the amended development agreement between the City of San Juan Bautista and R.L. Fulton Holding Company, LLC, for the Rancho Vista Subdivision Project, VTM 2015-201.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember West?
Yes.
Councilmember Bach?
Yes.
Councilmember Martirena?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Edge?
Aye.
Mayor Lund?
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by make the passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving along to B. Consider an ordinance adding section 6-4-116 to the SJBMC for regulations and restrictions in the times of water shortage. Second reading and approval.
Again, this is the follow-up of the ordinance restricting water usage. It is really a mandate by the governor of California to achieve a 25% reduction. I think we're right on board to approve it. Right now, we're averaging about 21%, and hopefully with this, we can get and achieve the 25%. And then we're negating the potential of a $10,000 per day fine.
Ouch. Okay. Do I need to open that up for public?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Open up for public, if anybody would like to come up and speak on that. Okay. Bring it back to council.
I have one question.
Okay.
Are we going to stop watering the parks? We
We're
noticed
cutting-
Abbey Park was getting watered the other day.
Yeah, right. We're cutting way back, and I told Joe that he's in charge of it and not to water it until the days that we have on there, and it was watering today?
No, this was
Oh, yeah, no.
Tuesday, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, today's Tuesday.
Yeah,
Monday,
Tuesday.
yesterday.
Monday and Thursdays, yeah. Okay. Those are the only 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean water it more, because you only got 2 days.
Yeah, no.
Well, the only reason I asked that is that was the only obvious one I saw.
We're working very hard with the regional board to see if we can get it, that site is plumb for the reclaimed water and as well as the cemetery, and if we can get over this hurdle, then we will have the ability to irrigate with reclaimed water.
And that will save the additional waters that we don't use.
Yeah.
I need that. I don't want to lose all those trees. I got to.
I'm going to bring up Eric. He had a question.
Actually, it was just a quick comment. I wanted to thank the council. Last month, I cut my landscape back by 2/3, cutting back to 2 days instead of 3. Raised my lawnmower blade and mulched my stuff. My lawns never look greener, so I think I actually have more room to cut back. But thank you for forcing us to go down to 2/3, or 2 days a week. It's actually helped my lawn.
If you let it all go, Eric, you don't have to ever mow it.
Roger, make sure you bill him for that.
Lawns around town are getting browner.
Yeah.
Now, is this something we bring in, motion, or?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance adding section 6-4-116 to the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code for regulations and restrictions in times of water shortage.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember West?
Yes.
Councilmember Bach?
Yes.
Councilmember Contrana?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Aye.
Mayor Lund?
Aye.
Members of the Council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, moving along to number 6, action items. Consider,
I'm going to have to excuse myself. I have
Okay.
a conflict of interest. I work for Granite Rock. AVEX is a wholly owned subsidiary of Granite Rock, and it'll affect me.
you're not going to Mom and Pop's, are you?
And I would excuse myself. And
What's that got to do
never
with
coming
this?
back.
Huh?
One of the funding.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you for,
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, we have Cameron Ruiz here tonight, and he wants to go there. The amount of volume of materials that we have given you is enormous, and hopefully Cameron can synthesize through this thing and make some sense of it, but it's all of the legal ramifications and the preliminary official statement that dated is fairly complete. We have a few minor little adds to it, but and Cameron can kind of fill you in there.
Yes, okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. And I want to pause for just 1 second and ask your city attorney, are we in a joint council and PFA board session this evening?
Yeah, yes.
No.
Double notice for both.
Yeah.
So they can act, and one action will be on behalf of those.
okay.
Okay, so yeah, I asked, so you are right now acting as both the city council and as the board of directors of the Public Financing Authority for San Juan Bautista. So I just want to remind you, as I give my presentation, you'd be thinking about both sides of this transaction, and where there are some deviations, I'll point them out. But at the end, if you are inclined to vote for this proposition, then you would then have 2 resolutions, one of the city council and one of the board of directors of the PFA. So you have the matter that's obviously been brought before you in the past. You formed the Powers Authority for the purposes of accommodating this financing, this potential financing for the refunding of your 2008 revenue bonds. And to do so, you're looking to save your constituents and ratepayers money in the city. We are still making great progress on all aspects of this matter, and we're bringing it before you tonight from the standpoint of the legal formational documents necessary to conclude the transaction, but we still have a ways to go even if this matter, if we do get the votes tonight. The traditional way of doing a bond refunding is to have a counterparty to a financing. That's the purpose of the forming of the Public Financing Authority, so that the City Council can enter into a series of transactions both for the water fund and for the wastewater fund, where you're going to convey title to yourself in the form of city to Public Financing Authority in the form of conveyance agreements. It's a legal mechanism to get an asset from point A to point B. Then you're going to be asked under installment sale agreement, again, for the water enterprise and one for the wastewater enterprise, separate. These are 2 separate transactions, to convey them back to the city and in the form of the installment sale agreement. The installment sale agreement has all the provisions, the covenants that are the repayment provisions built into those, so that the city is going to go ahead and take, as it has, the maintenance and operation aspects of the 2 enterprises, and then make payments to this Public Financing Authority in the form of these installment sale agreements. That creates the revenue stream, so that you have these assets, and now you're going to pay for them over time in the form of an installment sale agreement. And those agreements then have a debt service schedule attached to each one of those, a repayment schedule, if you will. One for the water, one for the wastewater. And those documents then flow to what's called an indenture, because now you have the installment sale agreements that have payment mechanisms that go back to the public financing authority, and that's your repayment to the authority. The authority then has these revenues, and it can pledge those for purposes of going out to the bondholders of the world to secure the bond transaction so that you get the rates that you're looking for, the low interest rates. And that is done through the indenture. So the indenture takes the blending of the two transactions, brings it up into a single transaction at the public financing authority level. It issues bonds to the world. The investors invest in these bonds, and the rate we're anticipating at this point is somewhere in that neighborhood of a little less than 4% at this point. So we're still in the area that we've always talked about. The market's been skittish. It has been up and down. It has, it's come back a little bit, and then it goes up. So I hate to sit here tonight and say, even try to project where we're going to be in a month, but we are doing our best at trying to get this wrapped up and get it out to the market so we can assess from, the investors of the world what they're willing to buy these at. In other words, create the competition. And that competition is created through the preliminary official statement. It's another document in front of you this evening. And I want to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but it's that document that describes the city, describes the city's enterprises, the water, wastewater, goes into the legal structure of what I'm summarizing, gives a little even about the demographics and the geopolitical situation, in the county as it exists today. So it's that document that investors look at to read and see that, what they're going to invest in. We're also seeking a rating from S&P. We anticipate the rating will be in the A category. We don't have a reason to believe it won't be. We have an approach. We're still compiling the credit package, and we had a conference call today with Roger and the team, and we think that we're getting very close now. We should be about a week away from going to S&P. S&P takes about another week and a half to get us a rating. Once we get the rating, if we get the votes tonight, it's about another week and a half after that to get to the market, to actually get it sold. So, so I've summarized a few of the documents here. There's still a couple more to go. There is a continuing disclosure agreement, and what that is under the SEC rules and regulations these days, just like you have now. It's stiffened up a little bit since you had gone out for the bonds, the original bond issue. And that is just that every year the city has to have an annual filing with repositories that sets forth certain provisions. And it's a pretty standardized small document. Staff is doing it now. They have been doing it. And so that is just going to be continued on for purposes of regulatory requirements. That's the continuing disclosure agreement. There's also the bond purchase contract, and that is the contract that the form is in your package. That is a contract between the public financing authority and the underwriter that ultimately is going to bring, like we said, when the preliminary official statement goes out to potential investors, there's going to be bid orders that are opened up and taken. The underwriter takes all those bid orders and then summarizes them for staff to be able to view at the time that this is going to be, the interest rates are going to be locked. And so at that point, we get on a conference call, the bid orders are summarized and basically synthesized down to a series of interest rates. This is a serialized transaction. It's not just one interest rate. I think we've talked about that in the past. So each maturity has its own individual interest rate, which will probably start from anywhere from 0.25%, and it'll start going upwards up to that 3.9% mark. And then you look at the serialized scale to get your all-in interest rate. So we're going to bring that to Roger. If the matter's approved tonight, you're giving your staff the authority, along with what would be the chairman of the PFA, to go ahead and the treasurer to do what's necessary to conclude this transaction. So back to, I think, unless there's questions at this point, I want to spend a little bit of time on the preliminary official statement, and there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you why in a second here. Any questions at this point? Okay. So the preliminary official statement is the document that has the city's
city council's approval that, it's your document, it's not ours. We do all the background work, we bring this to you, and we've spent a lot of time and effort in getting this in this format for you to consider. And so it's important that you realize this is your document. This goes out to the public. It represents the city. It represents your credit and legal profile of everything that's been done and everything that will be done to conclude this transaction. And it will contain the rating of Standard & Poor's. It could have bond insurance associated with this if the rating, if we get to what you're authorizing here is if we get to the point where the rating comes in, let's say it's an A-, and at that time bond insurance is available to buy that would enhance that A- to a AAA, and it enhances the entire transaction such that there's more savings to be done by buying this bond insurance than a standalone rating. We'll give staff all those numbers so that it's a clear-cut number, which way is the better approach. So it's going to have S&P rating, but it may have also bond insurance to bootstrap the credit to a AAA, and there'll be a credit decision, and the numbers are laid out, so it's a fairly easy decision to make. But I want to bring that to your attention, so that's part of the preliminary official statement. Yeah.
So what can we do right now to improve that?
Well, we're working behind the scenes to do everything we can do. There was one item of discussion which I brought up with Roger to say we'd like to bring back to you 3 policies, which rating agencies love cities that adopt policies. And those would be in the form of your reserve policy. You already have an investment policy, that's good. We would like to get the reserve policy, at least in a template format that you've at least set your eyes on and are heading down that path. Whether you get there all the way to adoption, that's another thing. But I think the rating agency wants to see that you're making progress. Another policy is on the continuing disclosure, what we talked about. Just making sure that somebody is responsible here at the staff level from a policy perspective to make sure this doesn't get overlooked in the future, because it really is a negative mark against your credit if you miss your filings. So to have a policy and a tickler file and a system set up so that you don't miss those, that's important. And I would anticipate we can bring all 3 of these policies at your June 16th meeting for your consideration. That's what we're going to be working on to get those all in order. So the other one would be the tax. You're doing a tax-exempt bond issue. There are IRS rules and regulations, same thing as the continuing disclosure. There needs to be ongoing compliance to make sure somebody's doing those things to make sure there's compliance each year. So I think those are the main credit positives that you can add to this transaction. Another one that we're working on is the wastewater study. You have a water study that's been commissioned. I think Roger at the next special meeting is going to be bringing up an idea of commissioning the wastewater study. It's another strong credit positive that's going to help your interest rate and your rating on this. So it could be money very well worth spending at this point. So I know that's not on the table tonight, but I think you'll be hearing about that as well.
And I think what Cameron is saying is that these things like we had adopted an investment policy, and now we want to make sure that we have a reserve policy, and there is really a culmination of the management and the commitment of the council and how we're going to perform on that thing. And the S&P likes to look at how the city is being managed to meet those objectives.
Yes, they do.
Can I ask these disclosures that have to be done every year, how do most cities set that up? I mean, staff changes, attorneys change, councils change. Is there a mechanism to ensure that?
And that's what I'm going to be providing to you in this policy. I have a template that I've used in several other cities, and it's a 5-page policy, and it sets forth who's responsible, what is the timing on the responsibilities, and it kind of gives a checklist so that it's fairly straightforward. And that way you can set it in your file and it's there, and whoever takes the seat of your city manager primarily will be the first and foremost most responsible.
So you.
I mean, it's just like I've never missed a house payment because my wife makes sure that I never miss a house payment.
Well, maybe we'll put her in charge.
got any other questions?
Any other questions from council? Okay.
So I just want to spend, I mean, it's important that I spend a little bit more time on this point. I'm sorry to bother you with this.
No.
I know there is a reason, and that is because as the due diligence aspect of this transaction, it's my job to make sure that we talk through this at a council meeting, and so I want to make sure we get the due time to this. So the cover page is just a simple explanation of what's going to be embodied in the transaction. They're fairly boilerplate, but they do set forth on the inside front cover what the interest rates are going to be. As I talked about, they're going to be a serialized scale. There will be a yield, a price, and they're going to be QSIP numbers attached. Those are just signifying numbers for purposes of the bond market to know that owners, when they buy, they know what they're buying in a legal fashion, and they can track their investments. There's the next page is just the cast of characters, your financing team, obviously the city council, the authority board, staff, and so forth. And so just kind of skipping forward here, we get into the body of the official statement, and we see again an introduction, which is about the first 8 pages or so, and it's a summary of what I just went through. It's all the legal agreements. It's also a summary of the city and the authority. When you get into the financing plan, which actually starts on page 7, we're talking about what is being done here, and what is being done is the prepayment of 2008 obligations. So we go into some detail as to when they're prepayable, how they're prepayable, what the outstanding amounts are, and that we're going to be defeasing these entirely. Legal defeasance is a term of art, means that they're no longer outstanding in the marketplace. They're going to be legally defeased, and these bonds will take their place, and they're pursuant to an escrow agreement. So there's also, moving on to the next page, there's prepayment of the 2011 obligation. It's proposed that the Payvex loan be prepaid as part of this transaction, and it has a brief description of the Payvex loan, how much is outstanding, the dates, and that it will be completely defeased, eliminated, and that there will be a corresponding amount that takes its place at a lower interest rate. The 2015 project is the proposed pellet plant, for lack of I always lose the term of art on what exactly it is, but it's the water softener pellet plant project, and the approximate amount on this we're still defining, but I know it's in the neighborhood, Roger, right now of what?
885.
885, right. So we're going to be, and when you see blanks in this, it's because you're giving your staff the authority to conclude, to get down to the absolute precise numbers on this. So anywhere there's blanks, it's really nothing more than you're going to be allowing Roger and the board chairman and treasurer to make these decisions in order to close the transaction.
Okay, so those funds are going to be directed for that part of the project?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The funds are going to be directed for that part of the project?
Yes. There will be a portion. The 885, as Roger just mentioned, will be set aside in a project account and would be managed by the city. And you would have what's called a requisition. You'd have Roger, each time a payment is submitted by a contractor, and it's
right.
And there would be a requisition. Roger has to state a few things, that this money is appropriately
allocated
for this purpose, and it has to be very definitive, and it has to be sequential on the requisition process.
Okay, so let me ask Roger, are we putting the 885 or that number, are we putting that in there?
Yes, that is incorporated into the total.
Yeah. But not the full amount.
Not the full amount, no. Yeah,
so
we have approximately half of it in reserve. Yeah.
So will that number change, or will that be one number and we're going to contribute to it with another number?
I think it's the latter, is how I understand it, right? You're going to use your cash, whatever that amount that's been allocated on hand, and we're going to finance the balance.
The balance, yeah.
With bond proceeds. That's why it's blank. We still have to get on, but I think that's, at least Roger, that's how we have understood it to date.
That is correct.
Okay. So the next portion of the financing plan is the sources and uses of the funds. It'll establish exactly what we're just talking about. It's going to have the par amount of the issue. It's going to have what is a source of fund, right? You're going to have funds on hand. You're going to have your reserve fund that you have now. You're going to have the bond issue amount, and you're going to have maybe some small funds in your debt service account that you don't, they're sitting there to make your next payment, but because we're going to refinance that, you don't need it, so it comes in as a source of funds. The use of funds is going to be the deposit to the escrow fund for the 08 transaction, the deposit to the prepayment fund for the 2011 paybacks, a deposit to the 2015 fund for what we just talked about for the salt, the pellet plant, and then a deposit to cost of issuance. Those are the uses. So you'll have an accounting, a balancing of those items. So the next page is the debt service. Obviously, we won't know these until we close the transaction, and that goes for both of those schedules. And then table 3 is really just for the bond investors to see, get a good look at the credit profile of this transaction. So it takes all your gross revenues, it nets out your maintenance and operation. That becomes what's called net revenues for bond investors, a very important calculation. They want you to operate your facilities appropriately, so they know that you need to take your M&O out first. You have your revenues, you reduce it by M&O, that becomes a number that they can then, that they're pledged repayment by. So that becomes what they look to, that's called the net revenues. So you compare it to the debt service on these new bonds, and you're going to get a factor, you're going to get a coverage factor. Your minimum coverage factor is of 1.25, so those net revenues are projected to cover the debt service by more than 1.25, and all our calculations say you're above the 1.25. Some years projected forward you might be down a little bit, closer to 1.35. Some years you go up to 1.55 and thereabouts, but you're within compliance at this point. So just, and that goes for water, and we've allocated on the 55-45 basis. Yes, water being 55, wastewater being 45, between the two funds. That's how it breaks down for purposes of pledging to the bonds. As I talked about in the installment sale agreements, you have 45% of the entire deal comes from wastewater, goes up to the bond issue. 55% from water goes up. That becomes a 100% pledge for the revenue bonds. And that's what these tables, they're just taking and looking at the water and the wastewater independently, making sure you have independent coverage for each one of those enterprises. Otherwise, an investor could be deceived to say, your 100% looks great, but you might be off on one or the other. So we've broken it down to make sure we're in compliance each way. Moving forward, under the bond section, you just have your descriptions of your bonds, your redemption provisions. We talked a little bit about this in a prior meeting where the prepayment provisions, the bond market looks to a 10% no prepay, and then after 10 years, payable at par without penalty at any time. That's a very traditional way of doing this, and bond investors look for that. If you're going to do anything other than that, there's going to be a premium interest rate, and that premium and interest rate is usually a pretty stiff penalty, and unless you have some plan of having a lot of surplus revenues that you're going to be retiring bonds early, it's usually not the best decision. I don't want to use best, but it's not usually a decision that a lot of cities make to have compromised your 10-year lockout to gain some flexibility at the expense of a rate. So we don't have it filled out yet, but we are anticipating a 10% no prepay par after that. So we go, and there are notice of redemption provisions, effective redemption. These are just things to make sure the bondholders know how and when redemptions happen or can happen. Security for the bonds, we talked about net revenues, so that just goes into your overall pledge of net revenues. It talks about the gross versus maintenance and operation. Then we get into the flow of funds. Your interest account is always paid first. Interest is always paid before principal. Then principal is paid. If there is a shortfall, it is paid from the reserve fund. The reserve fund is then made whole when it can be made whole if there ever is a shortfall after interest continues to be made each and every cycle. We talked about bond insurance. Depending on whether we're going to go that direction or not, there's a section in here for that. And the rest of it is really the legal provisions all the way. what I've covered, the installment sale agreement, the conveyance agreements, the escrow agreements, those are handled in the body through about roughly page 36, where we talk about the authority, when it was formed, how it was formed, what the powers are, how it's going to be used in the future. Then we talk about the city a little bit, just even though this is a net revenue pledge of the two enterprises, we want to give the investors a feel for the city and the dynamics and management especially. Management bios are not in here yet. We've ordered them. They will be inserted. Roger's going to get me his, and we have the other ones from the Public Works and from your operator, your maintenance operator. We have those, so we're going to insert those. And then we go into the rates and charges of both funds. We look at a historical, what has been charged, what is the chronology of your rate increases, how have they impacted revenues, and then we're going to mention the rate studies. We don't have those finalized yet, but we're dropping in the rate studies and projecting forward based on the rate studies. So that'll be the information that fills out the balance of the section on the water and wastewater. We also talk about the environmental compliance issues, the permit status, the non-compliant, the penalties that are being incurred right now, and the fact that the city is anticipating that the financing of the water pellet plant will reduce and eliminate some of the violations that are outstanding and bring you back into compliance. So generally that is what's embodied in this document. There are some other things, but I do encourage you to, even after this meeting, to continue to review it and to give Roger any comments that you might have so that we can hear about it and we'll make the adjustments.
Can you kind of touch base on the bond insurance?
Yeah.
Is that, when would that come into, compliance?
Right, so what happens with bond insurance is it's kind of like points in a mortgage. Well, no, it's not. It's more than that. You're buying, you're credit enhancing your transaction from, we think it's going to be in the A- range roughly right now. So to go from an A- to a AAA, which is what insurance would do for you, is significant. It is in terms of the interest rate differential between the two. But it costs you money. It does cost you money, and it can cost as much as, in this case, $135,000 or so. But
over the full term of the loan, or
it's a
yearly?
one-time charge.
One-time charge?
A front charge. So, like I said, we're going to bid it out to the insurance companies. We're going to get their best proposals. We're going to take that best proposal and analyze it in terms of a natural AAA. We're going to get a scale. We're going to run competitive comp scales and get a scale and look at the comp scale at an A-. Then we're going to look at the AAA scales that are out in the market that week. And it's easy to compare the two scales and to total up your total P&I and to compare the two numbers, one with bond insurance number, one without. And it just becomes a calculation at that point as to which way is the better way to go. But if you do buy bond insurance, you have the bond insurer waiting behind the transaction in the event of a shortfall to make the payments in your stead to the bond investors. And so the investors are looking to their credit instead of your credit, and that's why it's an enhanced rating.
So if they're about even, it's probably best to go for it then?
I would say yes, because the bond insurance does one other thing for you. They have the ability to do a surety bond for your reserve fund. Right now, we are anticipating that you don't need bond insurance to have a surety bond for reserve fund, but if you have bond insurance, it's cheaper, a little more cost effective to have a reserve fund surety. A reserve fund surety is like bond insurance for the entire transaction, but it just covers the reserve fund, so you don't have to finance that 10% reserve fund, which on a $10 million deal, that's $1 million that just sits in reserve, earning 0.25%, and meanwhile your bond issue had to buy that entire $1 million, and it's sitting there. You're paying 3.5% or 4% on that money, and you're only getting 0.25%. It's very inefficient.
Okay.
A reserve surety, if you purchase it, is a very cost-effective way to go, because as you can imagine, $1 million, if you have even 3% differential in 1 year, that's $30,000, and the bond reserve surety,
It'd be like 12
they run
years.
about that much, about 1 year's worth of savings that you're going to get between the two. So we're going to give those numbers to Roger as well.
Okay.
And he's going to make that decision. So.
Alrighty. Anything more to add for?
And this other thing about us paying back the, or the enterprise funds paying back the general fund, that going to have some effect on this too? Is that correct? I mean, that's the next item on the agenda.
Those are separate issues. From the standpoint of the bond investors, it's not a relevant issue, only from the perspective of, if it were the other way around, it would be very relevant. But because the general fund owes back, the general fund owes back.
Enterprise on the enterprise to the general
What's
fund.
that?
The enterprise owes to the general fund.
Oh, the enterprise, okay. Okay, so it'll depend on your conversation as to what that amount is. Obviously, you're not going to make it a priority payment over the bonds. It would be, if you do reach a decision on that, it would be subordinate to the payments on the bonds. And so they're not concerned that it's going to affect them negatively as long as you have enough money to operate and you don't drop below 100% and you're making any overages and surplus that you have if you're contributing with what you discuss on the repayment, the way to repay. The bond investors aren't going to care necessarily because they're in primary position.
Because if it really became a problem, I mean, we have the authority to forgive the whole debt.
And I think that's your tool. That is your club that you can utilize if you need to, right?
So we're looking at, we have the authority to do that. A partial was done before though, right? Years ago?
I don't know how much it was. I remember it was $500,000 that was forgiven. But I don't know how much the total debt was at that time.
And Deborah, is that something we can forgive or?
Yeah, it's the next agenda item.
Okay, all right, we'll wait till that next agenda item.
Yeah, right, yeah.
No, that should do it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry you had to sit through that all. I wanted to put it on the end, but they wouldn't listen to me.
We'll do it again next week.
Back to me.
So we don't have to do anything tonight, right, on this? Do we?
Yeah, there's two resolutions. The first resolution is a resolution of the City Council. That resolution is a resolution of the City Council of San Juan Bautista authorizing the issuance of and not to exceed $12,500,000 principal amount of Series 215 Enterprise Revenue Refunding Bonds, approving the forms of the authorization, authorizing and directing execution and delivery of the conveyance agreement, installation sales agreement, escrow agreement, purchase contract, and continued disposal certificate, approving the forms of the official statement and the distribution thereof, and providing for other matters property related thereto.
Okay, now, I just have a question first. So are we voting on this under the Finance Authority or as a council?
This is the City Council.
For City Council through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll do the, okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted
because
to make sure I was
you're acting as a City Council as well as the Joint Finance Authority
Okay,
Board of
so
Directors.
will that be the same resolution number?
No,
It
no,
would be 22.
22.
And it would be
23, okay.
B is 1.
It would be 2, because we had 1 already. Yeah, didn't we? The public financing for the resolution number 1, and this would be number 2. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should
Want to make sure it was all clear.
Yes.
My first time. Okay, so I'd like to open up for public comment if anybody would like to come up and comment on the issue resolution. Okay, I'll bring it back to council.
Comfortable with it.
Yeah, that's what we've been working on.
I guess I'll move that we adopt resolution, what is it, 2015-18? Is that it?
Or 22.
22. A resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $12,500,000 principal amount of Series 2015 Enterprise Revenue Refunding Bonds, approving the forms of and authorizing and directing execution and delivery of conveyance agreements, installment sale agreements, escrow agreement, purchase contract, and continuing disclosure certificate, approving the form of the official statement and the distribution thereof, and providing for other matters properly related thereto.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember West is absent. Councilmember Bach.
Aye.
Councilmember Martorana.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Reg.
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
4 members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes for...
We'll make a note that
Jim be
Mr.
listed as
Yeah,
right,
he is
okay. Recused
recluse.
himself?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now where is the one?
So now we're going to the B.
Actually, no, it's
No, we're going
the,
to this other one here.
What about the escrow agreement that follows?
that's all part of this, same,
That's part of it?
it's all part of it. Do we have, I don't have the
Don't we have to
second.
do something as the financing authority?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
That's what we're doing right now.
Oh, do we have
Yeah,
to
that's-
adjourn the city council meeting?
No, it's a joint.
And now you will act as the finance authority.
Okay, everybody change their hat?
Yeah, I don't have a copy of this.
This here?
Yeah, she passed it out. Where did
This
Trish
here?
go? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
That was it, oh.
Okay. Again, public comment, or?
Well, we have a staff report first? Or is it just pretty much going to be the same? Okay.
We did it for both meetings.
Got it, right. So I move that we pass a resolution of the governing board of the San Juan Bautista Public Financing Authority authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $12.5 million principal amount of Series 2015 Enterprise Revenue Refunding Bonds, approving the forms of and authorizing and directing execution and delivery of indenture, conveyance agreements, installment sale agreements, and purchase contract and continuing disclosure agreement, approving the form of the official statement and the distribution thereof, and providing for other matters properly related thereto.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Vote
Councilmember West is absent. Councilmember Bach.
reclused.
Aye.
Councilmember Martorana.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Reg.
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
Oh.
Council being present, the motion is stated.
That's
What's that-
also
What's that resolution number?
one.
No,
Two.
No, two.
Two?
PFA
Yeah.
2.
Okay. So all members, just for, okay, so for the minutes, would we put all members of the Finance Authority?
4 members present.
4 members present.
Of
One
the-
member.
Conflict of interest.
Of the Finance Authority then? Okay, so that's what will be in the minutes too? Okay. Instead of council, the city council.
Public financing authority being present, the motion is stated. By the maker passes 4-1.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
So we need to get Jim back. in here.
Jim can come
Yeah.
back in. Wake Jim up from his nap and have him. I gotta get a little more serious about this whole thing, you know that?
Trish,
Yeah.
could you grab Jim for us, please?
You went home?
He said he wasn't coming back.
Easy.
Oh, that was fast airplane. Jim. You didn't get thrown out? Oh.
You and your motorcycle.
Okay, so where are we at now on the?
We're on 6B.
Okay, consider adopting resolution 2015 number 23. Adopting an interfund repayment program for payment of enterprise funds of the sewer and water accounts to the general fund account.
I'm sorry, it's 6B, right?
Correct.
That's O2.
That's going to be
No,
O2?
that wouldn't be O2. We did, under 6A, we did 2 resolutions. One for the city council, and one for the joint, or the Public Finance Authority. That was the O2. So 6B is the interfund repayment plan.
And that would be 23.
And that would be 23, right?
Yes. Again, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, like Cameron said, is that it's something that's not required. It only shows your commitment to, under good management, is to say, hey, we have a plan and this is the approach we're going to go. Because it's adopted by a resolution, means that this is your policy and your statement to repay from the enterprise back to the general fund the money the general fund is expended in that area. If for some reason the cash flow does not work out, you can suspend any one of these during the period to where then when it gets better, then you can proceed and then restore it back. So, you know, now any one of these plans is viable, and like I've said, from A, you're basically funding the entire balance, and then there's the payment plan. B is forgiving a portion of it, you know, and C is splitting and giving half and half. And then the other derivatives are using impact fees, using reserve funds, and going through and projecting a growth rate that is going to retire this thing over a period of years. And because in your bond sales, you're relieving the debt service from the paybacks, which is $92,000 a year, you're applying that to part of the payment plan to relieve the $1.8 million debt. So, and that would be F and G or something like that. So, again, each of these plans are subject to how you feel it should be done. And if you're not confident about this tonight, and maybe you want to wait until after the bonds are sold, that somewhere along the line, good fiscal management is you have to address this.
Okay.
If we adopt one of them now and the bonds don't sell or sell differently than we thought, we're still stuck with this then?
Unless you want to rescind the resolution.
We can rescind the resolution if we don't.
Yeah. It's basically a payment plan to show your fiscal management of your revenues. And if you feel comfortable in any one of those, you're saying is the revenues through the enterprise funds sufficient to retire the new bonds as well as create the profit to retire this. And
okay. I'll open up for public comments.
it's.
Okay, I'll bring it back to council. Staff, anything else more to add to that, or?
It's a judgment call. It's complicated and everything, and like the Councilman Bach has said, is the previous council forgave a portion of the debt. That's a viable option.
We could resend and forgive it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
you-
by going
and-
with this resolution, we can show a faith of
Yeah, and you
policy.
can study it more, and we can address it when we get ready at the June 16th meeting, where when we solicit the bonds and stuff like that, and we have to make the decision, and you'll have a better feel on the rate study too. I've looked at the rate study, and we've looked at the zero growth projections, the 3% projections, and our growth rate and everything like that, and it shows everything is positive and creating a positive cash flow in the enterprise funds. And when you see that, you'll see that maybe any one of these plans can fit into that. And I would say is in hindsight, as I probably would say, is maybe we should continue this, and then when we get this rate study, I can present that to you. I've exhausted that, and we've met with Dove and talked to him numerous times, and we were on the phone there, and that's why when we looked at it and we did an exhaustive amount of detail on the water rates, and then I looked and I says, oh geez, but we haven't really addressed the sewer rates.
Right.
And we were assuming that whatever in CPI that we were going to apply in the sewer, we were going to apply in the water, but we didn't study it, so we couldn't really adopt that because it would be in violation of the 218 process.
Okay.
So now and we're getting this stuff away to him right away, and he'll be, he says he can get this in a very quick thing because he's already done the water analysis, and the rate study and stuff is to include the sewer rate analysis.
Okay. So I'd like to maybe just take staff's recommendation and carry this over to the next council meeting.
Can I have one question? Where did the money, I mean, we borrowed $2 million from the general fund in a day. Why did we do that?
To make up for, because we didn't raise the sewer and water rates appropriately, all right? We had to fund the sewer and water out of the general plan, which is, we shouldn't have done that, because if we'd have raised the rates
when we
to what they should have been, then we would have money to fix the streets and whatever.
So this 1.8 is just kicking the can down the road
That's
from the
correct.
city council.
That's correct.
And there were some big improvements in the sewer treatment plant that they were doing at the time, and they looked at the sewer revenues and they didn't have enough, so they funded it through the general fund,
But they didn't float a bond like we'd.
No. See, part of it
And they
was
made
like,
no provision for repayment.
all
We had the money in the
the,
general, so we used it for the sewer, and asking for, kind of like borrowing from your brother.
well, like the engineering
Same family.
and design of the infrastructure system, okay, that was paid out of the general fund. It shouldn't have been. It should have been paid out of the enterprise fund.
But the city council at that time didn't want to go out and raise money, didn't want to get taxes,
That's
didn't want
correct.
to go to bonds, so they figured, oh, we'll take it out of here.
Right.
No, they didn't want to raise the water and sewer rates.
Yeah, water and sewer rates, yeah.
And so we operated at a loss and made it up with the general fund.
Yeah. And so, the current council here now, we run the two separate things, the general fund and enterprise, and we divorce the two, and we look like we're two different companies, and then we balance that.
We had to do that so we could bond without a vote of the people for the sewer and the water.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody in agreement, so we carry
No.
this? No.
I have some comments.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I personally favor Plan A. I think the money should be repaid. The payment plan that Rogers outlined at 1 or 2% generates $75,000+ into the general fund that is money that was taken out of the general fund that should have been spent on those
Whatever our
activities.
general stuff.
Yeah, whether it's repairs. This, in our last budget meeting, we were told that we could grab another sheriff's deputy right now. This is basically enough dollars to cover that. If we pass this tonight, it goes into effect in a month, we start making the payments, and we have the money for another sheriff's deputy in 30 days.
How do we have the money for the sheriff's deputy?
That payment starts making the payments right there.
Back into the general fund?
Right into the
That's
general
correct.
fund, which then we can then use to pay for
And that
an
doesn't hurt
additional
the
deputy.
sale of our bonds?
No, let's go back. Okay, what he didn't have was the sewer analysis. We've already done the water. And by having both analyses, that's where this will help.
Yeah,
And
and I
all
think,
we're asking is
and
for
I
the
think what
time to get that.
Chris has said is by approving Plan A, it gives you a revenue stream back into the general fund where you can look at different programs and
Right.
services that we were denied. The only thing is that I'm cautioning is that until we get the payback solved to where we get that better cash flow, that we would
You
be
counsel waiting. Okay.
we would be in a negative in the,
Sure.
it's all a question of timing is right now.
That makes perfect sense.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
I'm going to come back to the council one
And
more
that,
time.
that gets back to just cash flow management. I'm looking at when my dollars are coming in and when they're going out. And as much as I would say, hey, I'd like to get them right now and let's get somebody on board, I won't have that benefit of that other dollars coming in for 3 or 4 more months. So, and I think that it's in our framework that we're committed to this, and I think that's good fiscal management, but it's the timing.
Okay, so we'll carry this over to the next one. All in agreement?
I agree.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Next month, okay.
Thank you.
Where are we at now? C? Okay, we'll move on to 6C. Consider proposed amendment to the personnel policies, extend sick leave benefits to part-time employees.
All right, I'm bringing this to you, council members, on account of a passage of AB 1522 that would go into effect July 1, mandating that all part-time employees receive at least some sick leave. We've got everybody covered under sick leave that works at least 21 hours a week. We have 2 members of the library that work 14 hours a week. We have an individual temporary employee in Public Works that works about 16 hours a week. And then we have a on-call gal that just started. And so far I'd say she's maybe 4 hours a week, figure. I call her in when I have a big project and she helps me out. So that would be the individuals that would be affected, that would benefit from this. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry I did not bring a resolution. I welcome any discussion on this item, but I would like to bring forth a resolution perhaps at the next meeting so that I have a better record keeping. All other amendments to the personnel policies have gone through a resolution.
Okay.
Okay, so we want to give them sick leave?
Yes.
We're required.
We're going to be required.
Now, is this going to be an allocated to time worked?
They receive 2 hours for each full calendar month of service. So anybody working 1 to 19 hours per week. And through ADP, we would, on each of their paychecks, it would
We're looking at about a day
calculate that.
We're looking at about a day and a half a year.
Okay.
Yeah, they take 4 months to get a day.
And it'll accrue according to a percentage, boom, boom, and then it'll build up, so they'll have that sick leave.
And how many part-time employees do we have?
3, that would be 4.
4 total. So we're looking at about,
We have more part-time than that, but the others are more over 20 hours a week.
So we're looking at anywhere from a week to 2 weeks of pay covering all employees.
All part-time.
Yeah, and Tricia should point out is we do have a policy where we do not pay for sick leave upon
That's why,
termination.
yeah, there really isn't a
Yeah,
fiscal.
so,
So it's not a cash-in thing?
yeah,
when
Right,
they-
you don't
it's
get
not a
cash.
cash debt and everything, but it's a benefit to the employee to show that if they do get sick, that they have the pay in it. You know, say,
That's something
The
our
one
family,
day-
it spells out in AB, which we cover in our personnel policies, that of course sick leave can be used to take care of a family member, for dental appointments, on and on.
Is there a cap on it? I mean, how much time you can build up?
In, we,
Yes.
we capped it.
Number F says that you can, 160 hours is the cap.
160
Oh,
hours,
okay.
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
Wow. That would take how many years?
Bless you.
20 days.
But how many years of work to get to that time? Okay, so another concern is if these people are working with us part-time, do they have jobs other places? Do they have? I mean, do they have other jobs?
These four that I.
No.
These they're
Speaking
sold.
to, I don't believe they do.
Okay. Just in case they're working somewhere else full-time and they're calling in sick that day and calling in sick here and kind of double
Well,
into that.
Only a
well, they're only
fire.
gonna get an hour.
Hey.
They're only gonna get an hour.
Huh?
They're only gonna get an hour.
Well,
They only accrue an hour. They
accrue
only
an hour.
Accrue an hour a month, but if they've.
It's
been
2
here,
hours,
Then they've got
but-
12 hours.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, so,
It's so long since I had a
so
job
it gets
there.
carried till to next, you'll have a
Yes.
resolution
Yes.
first next month.
Yes, I'll bring a
Okay.
resolution. Thank you.
All right.
Only a fireman would think of double dipping.
Yeah.
Well, they have all that time to plan these
Yeah.
things out.
And all that time to think, yeah.
Idle mind.
While they're making dinner.
You know, we were just all starting to get along. So. Okay, I guess we'll move on to 7B.
No, that's done.
Yeah.
No,
For
B.
the, B, distribution of sales tax. Did we cover that with the?
It felt like we
No.
covered everything already.
Yeah, we felt like
This
in
is a
everything.
separate
you know.
issue.
Councilman Monterano asked us to be put on the agenda, so I kind of researched it and took a look at the sales tax, the way it is prescribed by the state law code, you know, the constitutional code and everything. And basically, the statewide tax base is 7.5%, and then local transactions and user taxes and total sales tax can vary between 7.5% to 10%, depending on the voter preference in that jurisdiction.
So, I asked for this to be added to the agenda after the intergovernmental meeting that Robert and I attended. The County Board of Supervisors has asked each of the governing bodies, the municipalities and themselves to go back and talk about this issue. And so I asked Roger for a breakdown of what the sales tax amounted to. What they're talking about is also related to what Mary from COG talked about. So they did their survey based on a half-point increase in the sales tax across the county. At the intergovernmental committee, there's been discussion between the city of Hollister, San Juan Bautista, and the county about doing a county-wide increase of 1%. It would be a non-specific, it would not be necessarily directed specifically toward transportation issues, but the discussion was around raising basically having a level sales tax across the county, and that whatever changes, so this gets a little convoluted because currently Hollister is at 8.5%.
Due to their Measure E.
They have, right, they have a measure today that they have a temporary 1% increase that takes them to 8.5%, and that apparently, that measure dies or sunsets in, I think, 2018, sometime in like the middle of 2018. And what they have suggested, and so then they're at 8.5%, they would go down to 7.5% at some point in 2018. The county is currently at 7.5%, which is the basic state sales tax. The city of San Juan Bautista is at 8.25% currently. And so what that means is we have a 3/4% local addition to the state sales tax. So that goes into, Roger, our general fund, correct?
Correct.
That 3/4%. So at some point that was passed. I have no idea what the history is there, but that apparently was passed locally.
Yeah, it had to be done here.
Okay, so what has been suggested or been discussed is taking the entire county up 1%. That would take the county from 7.5% to 8.5%. That would put us at 9.25%. And Hollister, what they want to do is repeal their individual 1% in favor of this 1% countywide. So they would stay at 8.5%. Essentially, and what Robert and I discussed was that we certainly didn't want to be at a disadvantage relative to the rest of the county in terms of sales tax. And so that would potentially mean us repealing a portion of or all of our current 3/4% increase. And they've discussed it in terms of a couple of length of term, but I think the consensus was that it would be a permanent 1% countywide sales tax increase. And so they're looking for input from us as a council as to how we feel about that, if we would support that proposal or if we would not. And that was, I don't know if you guys saw, there was a request from the Board of Supervisors for a joint meeting between the City of Hollister, San Juan Bautista, and the Board of Supervisors. And this is what they want to talk about, I believe. Yes,
so nobody proposes a tax increase without having an idea of where they want to spend it. Where do they want to spend it? And do we have control over the money that comes in here?
So and this is all very informal, amongst the intergovernmental committee. So the discussion was that each of the governing organizations, government organizations, would basically be able to allocate the funds that were generated within their realm on their own. So there would be some sort of sharing agreement. I don't know the technicalities of it, but essentially whatever that 1% generated within the city of San Juan Bautista would be ours to do with whatever we want. Same for Hollister, same for the county. The county's intent, I think, is primarily to fund transportation issues, but this is where the political stuff gets a little touchy. If you say that the tax is for X purpose, the voting requirement is 2/3, I guess. If we say it is for the general fund to be allocated as we see fit for the purposes that include all of these things, including transportation, then we only need a simple majority to pass the tax when it goes onto the ballot.
So the difference would be like the 51% to the 66.3 on that in order to pass would probably be harder than it would be for the 51% of the general fund.
Right.
Looking at what we're at now, 1/4%, we're looking at 25 cents on every $100, which isn't a huge increase for us.
No, we're looking at $2.
No, that would be 2.5%.
Okay.
So we're looking at 25 cents per $100, 1/4% increase of what we would be at now, which probably wouldn't be a problem for our city in that area. But it would be nice to be able to get the county's revenue up that 1% so that they can give, they can put maybe a 0.5% more into roads and probably bring up their fire revenues and library. Those are probably their three biggest concerns: is library, fire, and roads.
Being the devil's advocate, and Rick knows too because he went through it too, what makes you think that the people in this county are going to vote for a 1% tax increase when the city of Hollister turned down, the voters of the city of Hollister turned down an increase in their TOT tax that didn't cost them a dime out of their pocket? And in the discussion at COG, we went from a quarter to 1% to 1%, a quarter to a half to 1%. And basically they said, you're not going to get 1%, period. And when was that? We tried to do it here in town and it failed.
It failed. I was going to ask, is there any kind of a connection between this proposal and COG's survey?
That's the weird thing.
There is not.
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't a direct.
COG's talking about 0.5% for transportation only. And this is a 1% general fund thing. Now, number one, you're going to have to make up your mind which one you want.
Right. Yep. But this is just open discussion.
Yeah. My understanding of their, I think the general consensus was that it would be one or the other, would not be both. And that in general, certainly the city of Hollister favors this suggestion, the 1%. And I think that I didn't get a strong sense of where the county board of supervisors was. And frankly, as you pointed out, Jim, I think earlier, if Hollister decides on this, then so goes the county, potentially. And for them, it's a wash because it would be, the intent is to repeal the current 1% and add it back. Now, I don't know how people are, if people are that tuned into the fact that 1% sunsets in 2018 at this point. So
do they need a vote to do that if they're going to pull away and then add another?
I don't know what the mechanics of that are, but yeah,
It'd go to the people. It would be a vote.
Potentially it all gets wrapped into one, or I'm not really sure. I don't know how that gets
It gets
put
into
on the ballot.
Detail of where you have to have a commitment from the Board of Equalization to approve it.
It gets awfully convoluted and
Complicated,
messy, it seems. And I think it potentially is complicated and
Now I
messy
have
for
another
us,
question.
too.
COG's looking at generating more money. The county is looking at generating more money for road improvement, among other things. Is there a secret agenda here to hurry up and get the road through the valley
There's nothing.
done?
No.
No?
The 0.5%, the survey that they did and everything would go, anybody from Hollister here?
No, they all left.
Everybody knows I really love
Turn the
Hollister.
camera off, please.
But your big brother,
Oh yeah, you're on TV, Tom.
Anyhow, of the 0.5% sales tax, we would get our normal share of, like STIP funds, we get 17% or something like that. That's what San Juan would get. And then the county would get, I believe it's around 30-some%, and Hollister gets the rest of it. Hollister can do whatever they want. If their people decide that they want to take their
parks
$2 million or whatever and spend it on 25, that's up to them. But I know they would have a real problem because there's a lot of streets in Hollister that are bad too. So
try 4th Street.
Well, the proposal from COG is strictly a transportation.
Strictly transportation,
So it's not-
and based on the survey and everything, we felt that was the only way that you were going to get that 0.5%. Now, if you throw that out of the window and take this 1%, does that mean that we have to cut our sales tax? Or do we get another 1%?
No,
We
we
get another
don't.
quarter.
We could
Well, the
decide.
county gets the 1%, and then the sort of the cost sharing is that we would get that portion of it. but
here,
yes, it
on
would be an
sales tax
additional.
here, we would have to pay.
That would put
somebody
us
have
at
to
9.25%.
9.25%, yeah. So we're,
8.25%.
but, well, I don't know how much.
Yeah, I
People would
personally.
go to Hollister to buy something for 1%, I don't know. but-
Gilroy's at 9, I think.
Pardon me?
I think Gilroy's at 9.
Salinas is up at 9 and.
Again, I think in general concept of what was said is this is just a discussion on
Yeah.
how it's going to play out in
Yep.
terms
Remember that.
of the county and the city of Hollister, who's going to be the driving
Well,
force.
Essentially, the Board of Supervisors is looking
They trust
for,
us.
is looking for input from us.
Yeah.
So now
Well, I
I've
would-
described the situation, but my personal feeling is I'm fairly ambivalent. I don't, the dollars involved in I'm making an assumption, assuming we come down to a total or an ending rate of 8.5%, because I cannot imagine, I certainly wouldn't support going to 9.25%. But if we then made some adjustment and took ourselves to 8.5%, the differential in revenue is I think it was $50,000. I mean, it's so little that I'm just not.
Yeah, it was a minute.
Fairly ambivalent toward the whole thing.
We might get a better idea if this joint meeting, the supervisors
Sure.
and Hollister and
Yeah.
and us, and, see where they're coming from, if nothing else. Because, like I say, I just said what I knew, that, Hollister turned down their TOT tax, so,
Yeah.
and
That was
I don't know how many years ago that was. We tried to get a 1% here.
Yeah.
And
I don't see anybody in the whole county voting for this, really, in this economy.
Here's the thing, though, if you go for that tax and it goes through, everybody's going to expect that road to be perfect the next day.
Oh, yeah, that's
They're
true.
going to, we voted yesterday and now we're driving down the road and
Yeah.
it's not fixed.
It's like they say, well, the 0.5% will generate $3.4 million.
The EIR
I don't know who
costs
said
$3
200 million, but the number I hear for 25 is 300 plus.
375 at one point.
375 to 350. That's only 100 years, it would take to pay for it. So,
Yeah, I'm certainly
that
not
would probably be
advocating
done
for it,
3
I'm
times
just
within the-
putting it out there.
You brought it up, it's your
we
fault.
We were asked to bring it to the council, so here we are.
Okay,
And they're still awake.
Okay.
moving on.
God, yes, let's
Okay, we'll move on to item C, Lang Street storm drain.
Okay, you've seen my staff report and the letter I went to the Rogers and stuff like that, and we even did a little preliminary plan and engineering estimate. They went out to bid, the engineering estimate is that way. There are ways of doing it cheaper, if they buy the pipe and then hire some laborers to dig the trench and stuff, it could be considerably cheaper, but these are basically contractors' costs.
Oh, okay.
You
How did they take this?
I haven't talked to them, and we'll be following up after this report here, and meeting with them and see what direction they'd like to go.
It's very unfortunate, but when you buy a property, there's title reports that show where easements are, and, it's all laid out, and that's the time to ask questions, and,
Most people don't.
And the other fact is, they've kind of grown their lot back onto the easement. In fact, they've filled half that pipe in by getting agricultural land and land, if they had not used that land, I don't think they would have had the
Well,
problem.
Caltrans could have poked a hole in that wall. too.
Yeah. Well, I gather from Mary Gilbert tonight that they've been in contact with Mary in an effort to contact Caltrans and pursue it that direction. So I
Mary is-
asked Mary about that this
Mary's a good liaison for that.
Yeah. So she had asked when Ms. Rogers came before us last month, she asked that we agendize this. She's not here, obviously.
Yeah, I wish we were kind of
But I
brought
think
down.
we're, I'd say we've
I have a cog.
we've done the follow-up. I think we've done what we can at this point.
That could be an option to where if Caltrans agreed to that, is just to punch a hole in there, and then it's just a short pipe that.
Well, I have a COG meeting Thursday, and Caltrans is there. And if you want, I'll ask them if they've been, or Mary has been in touch with them. Because from reading everything that Roger wrote here, it's Caltrans.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's something that was kind of overlooked between sales.
Well, yeah, you know, it's like Rick says, you know, you're sitting there signing all these documents to buy a house. And,
Didn't you read that?
You know, and you go, well, did you realize, you know?
Yeah.
Now, theoretically, the realtor should have brought that up if they were aware of it.
Explain the realtors.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for that. We'll move along to item D, proposal to purchase a visitor center trailer.
We'll park it out in front of mom and pop's, and then we won't have a problem.
So I requested this be added to the agenda, and it's not to purchase a visitor center trailer. There's been a lot of, I think there's a fairly universal belief that we need a visitor center, that a visitor center would be of benefit to the town and the local businesses. It occurred to me that something that didn't cost us a bunch in rent every month would be a good idea. And I thought of a small trailer that would house sort of a little information kiosk sort of thing, but be mobile so that we could park it in different places in different towns, or in town for different events, and potentially take it out of town. Different groups could use it, have access to it. And my suggestion is, or my request is, that we, as a city, take ownership of this. This is something that the business community would pull together and create, but then the city would own and insure and register and make available to different volunteer organizations, business organizations that may want to use it. Again, both in town and in support of the town elsewhere.
Don't park it on Franklin.
I was going to say, where would we park it?
Between 3rd and 4th on Franklin would be good.
Yeah, I might actually second and
cement
third
out there that we can
There's a
on
lot of cement out there. We could be.
second and third on Washington, next to the Castro Breen Adobe, would be, in my mind, an ideal location on the weekends. Would be visible to people on the plaza, visiting the state park and the church, be visible down Washington to the people transiting on 3rd Street. We could move it down to 3rd Street, wherever we thought, but being mobile allows us to, and this is sort of what I had in mind, was a teardrop format, a vintage.
He's trying to sell his trailer.
No, not sell my trailer. Thank you very much.
Get out of here, Chris.
No. So the idea would be to build a vintage trailer. Yeah, they've seen it because they've been to the meetings.
If we can get a close-up on that?
I've spoken to Kathy Shipper at Shipper Design. She's signed on to help with the graphics, dealing with the graphics, and some of the ideas are to put a stylized map like this on the side of the trailer that would show different stuff around the state, and then highlight San Juan Bautista, have pictures in the form of postcards down the other side of the trailer to give people a sense of where we are and what's here.
I was imagining something people could walk into and pick up brochures.
The idea would be that you'd pop up the back and have brochures available in that back area. Have somebody out under a canopy or a umbrella talking. We've had a number of people volunteer to to do fundraising and to volunteer to staff the
Do you have
trailer
a
as well.
cost on this?
I'm working on a budget, but again, we're not asking the city for any money for the construction, it's just to take ownership once it is completed. That is my request
Well, who would
or
build it?
suggestion. We're working on that. I'm not sure.
They're rehabbing a trailer on Washington Street.
Yeah.
What's her name? Diana?
I'm not involved in that in any way.
Diana, and I don't know her partner's name.
I think the Ortizes would love you there.
Yeah.
No, I had to laugh when I saw that.
Sure. Well, and that's the idea. It's cute.
It is a good
It's
idea.
interesting,
No, I know,
visually
but
appealing.
Yeah, you just need Model A wheels on it, and I know we can get some.
I was going to hit you up for that. So we are taking donations in kind.
Yes.
I got a
Roger,
couple of mag wheels.
Roger, is there
You have
room
to
at the
polish
city
them.
lot to store something like
On
this?
the off times?
Maybe.
Okay.
It's kind of crowded, yeah.
Well, and I wonder if we couldn't, park
Does
it
it
next
finish it,
door, potentially.
I thought of that too, but then see with the increased activity there,
Yeah, I mean, these are, we're, getting into the weeds, I think.
Yeah.
I think
it's a good
conceptually, if we
concept.
like the idea and we're, the benefit of having the city own it is that basically it becomes available to anybody. The committee can use it. There's a loose organization of other merchants that have talked about it. Bev, who's here in the audience, has been very active in the previous visitor center. A number of people that have volunteered in the past have asked for something. When I looked around for a site for this, a small space on 3rd Street was $600 a month plus doing build out. This allows us to staff it when we have staff, not staff it, not have a monthly payment. It's a relatively low investment. The threshold of entry is pretty low. And, potentially we could take it down to Moss Landing for their fair. Monterey's having a big antique fair now once a month that we could take it down there and get the word out outside of town as well as benefit the visitors to town directly.
Do we still have the 3 acres off of Washington Street? We could store it there.
We need to utilize that place a little bit.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah. I do believe we have a speaker card.
Richard Ponce, 93 4th Street. I really don't have an opinion on the proposal, but I do have something to kind of refresh your memory when it comes to advertising and promoting San Juan Bautista. Going back to no opinion, I'll change my mind, I do have opinion. To take this little trailer to an event, say to Alameda, the show that I do, it's going to cost you $150 to get in. You do Moss Landing, about the same. So it's not like just taking it to an event and we're here. You have
So we need to budget.
There's a cost. Anyway, to refresh your memory, and this goes back to 2010, and I gave you guys a copy tonight, and I apologize for giving it to you too late. I normally give you information a few days ahead of time, but I couldn't find this article in the Freelance. So anyway, back in 2010, the headlines on the Freelance, and I know Tony doesn't care that much for the Freelance, but this is fairly accurate, Tony. Chamber to open Visitor Bureau in San Juan Bautista. That was the highlight. It will highlight tourism efforts. And then another highlight on it, that you got part of it, is we are ready to put San Diego County on the map in an effort to strengthen our business and to foster an appreciation of all we have to offer to tourists. The announcement calls the San Juan spot the perfect location for the Visitors Bureau because it is the gateway to San Benito County. And I think we all agree that we are the jewel of San Benito County. We are the highlight of San Benito County, and we should be proud of it. It goes on to note how also has great amenities for visitors, such as the historic downtown corridor, the largest California mission, Fremont Peak, the observatory up at Fremont Peak, boutiques, a variety of restaurants, sorry about this one, bars, and along with this scenic location in East San Juan Valley. And it goes on, the article goes on to other things. Anyway, when our chamber, when we lost our chamber, citizens in the community felt that we needed to do something to promote San Juan Bautista. So we had a lot of meetings, public meetings, and we decided that we would form a group. We formed the San Juan Committee, and we were voted in by the people of the community. And we had a choice of joining two organizations to get a nonprofit status. And we were approached by Bob Fuller and Jessica French. They were from the San Diego County Chamber of Commerce. French was the CEO, Fuller was the president of the chamber, and invited us to join them. And one of the first things we did, we helped get a grant, $10,000, to open up our little visitor center here in San Juan Bautista. And we lost the building, so we lost the visitor center. Anyway, the city of Hollister recently gave the Chamber of Commerce $15,000 of TOT tax to promote the county. And the chamber, San Diego County Chamber of Commerce is asking, they just had a presentation at the Board of Supervisors meeting, and they're asking the county to contribute TOT tax, county TOT tax, to the chamber to promote San Diego County. My point is that San Juan Bautista, the city of San Juan Bautista, is a member of the San Diego County Chamber of Commerce. Whether they know it or not, we are one of the cities in San Diego County, and we should try to get some of that money to promote San Diego County. The $50,000 that the chamber has, it is to promote San Diego County. We are part of San Diego County, and we should work hard to try to get some of that money here to create a visitor centers here in San Bautista.
Okay.
I think that's about it, and I do have the full article if anybody wants a copy of it.
Tony, you probably have that, don't you?
Thank you.
I'm sure I have it in my archives. So.
The birdcage liner?
Yes, first of all, not to get off the subject too much, but I wanted to avoid some of the excitement tonight, so I went home, and I want you to know, you guys look great on live TV. So
that's when I was out of the room.
Yeah. You don't have to stay up to 2 a.m. in the morning to watch it anymore on reruns or whatever. This idea was brought to our committee last week, and you know, I'm not absolutely certain on the trailer. It has some really good ideas, the portability, the mobility of it, and all that. 2 weeks ago, my wife and I took a weekend trip through the Sierra foothills, and Murphy's has a small visitor center. It's kind of a fancy lean-to almost, but it does fold up, and then it pops out, and then they bring out tables, and they have little brochures, and I don't know how many of you have been to Murphy's lately, but every other store front there is literally a winery or a wine tasting room, and they have brochures of all the wineries there. And so my wife was talking to one of the other storefront that's not a winery, was an art gallery, and she was in there chatting with them, and the lady did say that the wineries have given Murphy's economic stability that it never had 15, 20 years ago. That's a little idea for our city. I just thought I'd throw that out. I do think that the San Benito County Visitor Center probably needs to be right here at the beginning of the entrance to San Benito County and to the Pinnacles. It's where it would make the most sense. I'm kind of with Tony, there's really not much to see in Hollister, so.
Well, you know, the best place for it is right on the corner of 156 and the Alameda, the southeast corner there.
So I'm trying, where the gas station's gonna go? Anyway.
Hey, he volunteered to put one in.
Well, you know, I'm all for that, you know, anyway. But Bev has some information she wants to talk to you about it too, so.
Okay. Richard, you had a question real quick, or?
Actually, I had wanted to add to the gas station, when it does go in, is
Going to have a center in there.
a center.
Yeah.
Mayor, member of the City Council, I'm Beverly Meamber. I reside on Line Street, and I've been involved with the strategic plan and the business and tourism subcommittee. I met Chris and his wife in the visitor center that we had, that had been funded by the Community Foundation to the San Benito County Chamber. And Chris and Angela were going to volunteer in that center. You need a visitor center in this town. That's I spent, how many of you are down in the parking lot at the windmill and somebody's like, how do I get somewhere? Or I recently talked to a woman that was here with her husband who was a contractor. She was going to be here for a week. And she's like, what is there to do? I've looked all around and no one has any information. So, you know, trying to get a building and the funds to develop you know, a real center. There is so much enthusiasm over Chris's project. He's presented it, and when he presented it to the Merchants Coalition, is what I call them, they were all excited when he talked about it at the Strategic Plan Committee. It was built. So I think that this is a great opportunity for us to get a visitor center here in San Juan and start promoting our city of history. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard, was that a grant? Was that through the Community Foundation?
I believe it was, and that was prior to us actually, well, it was prior to us becoming a 501c, because we just recently did. But I still go back to the fact that the City of San Juan Bautista is a member of the San Benito Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a lot of, not a lot, but some of our business people are members of the Chamber of Commerce. We need to make sure that that $50,000 that they got from the city of Hollister to promote San Benito County should include us. Also, they're petitioning the Board of Supervisors to get county TOT tax to promote San Benito County. And we're being left out on all that money. So I think as a council, maybe we should talk to our supervisor to tell them and say, hey, you know, we got to be part of this money that is being used to promote San Benito County, because we are a Missouri San Benito County.
We actually have we've had discussions through our intergovernment on the TOT and direction of promoting and where that monies are going. Also, we're also the staff from the visitor center and the chamber and stuff. We meet at the county business council, and so we can talk about that there. Maybe I can get you invited over to the for that and have the discussion with, because I guess I just got a new person that is she's running the
yeah, we've been talking to the bakery here, and as a San Juan committee, we've been offered to put some stuff in the bakery. So as the San Juan committee is working on that right now, but maybe we can expand that thought.
How about if the city sends a letter to the chamber?
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know, Roger draft it or
Trish?
Or you sign it or something.
Well, back in 2010, we were leadership changes in the chamber. Okay, there's been 3 changes since we first joined.
Yeah, we were trying to bring that back,
Yeah.
but you know, due to some financial difficulties, there was some.
Yeah. Well,
there's
they've
some
got 50
things.
grand now, TOT tax to promote the county, and they're trying to get more from the Board of Supervisors, from the county. We got it from the city of Hollister, and they're trying to get it from the Board of Supervisors of the county. And that's a lot of money. I think they should be able to do something here. We are the gateway to San Diego County. You know, we have more to offer than just wine, so I think we should be part of that.
Okay.
We should get some of that money.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Not to say that this idea is not any good. You know, we need all the help we can get.
I'm trying to catch the end of the Warriors game, Richard. Will you?
Okay.
You know,
Too late for them, but they won.
they
won?
Oh, good.
You know, I will say one thing. If you build a trailer, if you build a unique vehicle, people will recognize it.
Right.
And I'll ask other people what it is. And I know that because we've done that with Granite Rock with some of our trucks that stand out.
Hey, covered wagon or something.
Yeah.
I know where there is one.
Well, great.
No, but
It's right across from Leal's, by the old gas station.
Yeah, that one's in there.
But if you build it, make it look antique-ish, you know, make it look so people would recognize it.
Yeah.
And then if you parked it out at Bettaville or parked it,
Oh, that's right, that's a water tank, yeah.
Yeah, the part of the intent is to make it very easily manageable.
Yeah.
I mean, that the teardrop can tow behind any vehicle. I mean, we towed it behind our Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
My teardrop, you know.
The
we have a
only
teardrop.
reason I laughed, Chris, is when I saw that.
Oh, no,
colors.
yeah,
The what?
it's terrific.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
And it does stand up.
So, you know,
I
there's
thought you were
no...
going to have to excuse yourself after you made the proposal.
No. So at this point, there's no assurance that the thing's going to get built in the first place. I just hate for us to get too far down this road, get the community excited about it, involved in it, and get it built, and then have nowhere for who's going to own it, how's it get
Who's gonna
registered, who
schedule
gets
it?
it insured.
Okay.
How much is registration per year on a trailer like that?
$15 bi-yearly.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah,
It's not
bi-yearly.
even bi-yearly, it's
But-
forever.
but
No,
who-
my trailer, I paid it one time, that's it.
Yeah.
I never paid again.
It's 5 years.
Huh?
A PTI trailer is 5 years. They don't tell you that. They say it's a permanent trailer, but it's
there's no
5
tag
years.
on
It goes beyond the simple, it's also liability, you know, it becomes, if we fold it into our liability insurance, it just becomes a lot simpler for everybody.
Because the trailer has some advantages over a storefront.
Absolutely.
Storefronts all look alike, and then if you lose the building, you don't have it anymore. The trailer, if there is a lack of interest for a period, can go into storage, come back
No
out.
kidding.
I like the idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any idea what
Hi.
that costs?
We're not going to do a trick yet.
Yeah.
As long as you don't make it look like an Oscar Wilde.
Hey, you know those things are valuable?
That'd probably be copyright infringement.
Okay, let's move along.
The Wiener
We got
Mobile.
one last on
So,
there.
well, can I get a sort of poll the group? Are you guys amenable to the idea?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's worth exploring.
Okay. Robert? Yeah. Tony, you're comfortable with the...
Tony's not comfortable with anything.
I got
He's
a
already
really nice
outvoted.
trailer I can sell you. but
He's already outvoted.
You don't need anything that big.
I haven't used it in a
Okay,
year.
well, thank you.
Yeah. In
All right,
fact,
we're gonna-
if you, the reason I asked you about the price of the kit is,
I'm trying to.
I know where the guy's got a big garage and we could build it.
We're on a roll here, you
There you
know.
go.
We're shooting for 11 o'clock.
I know. Okay, moving along, let's go to e-city website format, webmaster, Connie Schobert.
We have no new issues after 10 o'clock,
All
right?
right. I'll keep it short. I know we're all tired. Okay, so as most of you know, if not everybody knows, that I also do the website for the city. I take care of like updating everything that's on there. I don't know how many of you have looked at the website recently, but I have given it like a few changes and stuff to make it easier to find things. But my goal is, my goal is to redo the site by October, because that is when our hosting plan expires. And when our hosting plan expires, it will be upgraded to a newer version where our current website format will not be supported, so I have to do it by October. I inquired with Michelle about, what are the most useful things that, people benefit from on the website, as well as, sitting at the front desk myself. I have asked people, or people have come to me and said, well, there's, building permits, there's the, the fees associated with the community center, business licenses, yard sale permits, and paying the water bill, which are really important here. And I have also gotten a few complaints regarding the website itself that it's too wordy. There's too much going on there. It looks dated. It's ugly. So my goal is to shoot for a cleaner look, and then put on there the most relevant information, and to kind of draw in, and kind of show the most important information or what people look for. And that way, if we have a cleaner design, it will draw more people to the website. In addition, if anything sounds too complicated or anything, just let me know, because there's a lot going on there. Right now the website is very big. There's too much information on there. So my goal is to look for, get input from you guys as well as the public to see what kinds of information they think, or you yourselves think, that should be removed or that should stay, so that it's easier to find things on there. And then, yeah, so...
Are you talking about like the link menus?
Yeah, the link menus, there's too many on there.
Okay.
And on top of that, in every link menu, there's a page that goes to another page, that goes to another page. So our goal is, I want to keep city government transparent, and, so people can go on there and, if they're wondering, how does the city spend their money on this, or, just keep it all there in plain view, and have archive pages, but not to the extent that what we have now. I don't know if anybody's ever really looked in depth to see how big the website actually is, but it's too much. And rather than spend that much time going through everything and figuring out what I do need, it's actually, I have been told that it's easier to just start from scratch than to continue to spend more time on an already dated website.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was looking to get input from you guys, not right now, but if you have any questions, just let me know. If the public would like my contact information, they can get it by calling City Hall or emailing me. My cards are also at the front desk. Yeah, I think that's it.
Alrighty, thank you. It's been a little while since I've been on the website, so I'll see what's new.
That's okay.
I was kicked off.
I've done a calendar of events on there, and I was also thinking about doing one of our most frequent calls is the community center booked for this date or for this date, and then I was thinking about doing a calendar that says, booked, or it's open, or stuff like that, so it's easy to access.
And they could actually click on it and reserve it?
Do you get...
Not quite yet, but yeah, my goal is just.
But that could be
that
could be an option.
It takes more time away from Michelle having to answer the phone and say, well, yes or no, or and then the fees are going to be up there. Everything is just going to be a lot cleaner.
Do you get many calls for the cemetery?
I'm sorry?
Do you get many calls for the cemetery?
Those people are dead.
Ignore the peanut gallery over there. No, people call me because they've called here and gotten my phone number.
Yeah.
So would you want to put that in there instead of...
That's another question I get is
people dying to get to San Juan.
Regarding the cemetery, what's the contact information for that?
Yeah.
It's not up there.
Okay, well, the next time I come in, we'll sit down and I'll get it.
That's what we need in town.
Well, we get calls where there's the line's dead.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Oh, now we got two in the peanut gallery. Oh, okay.
Would it be possible to make the list yours darker, because you can't really read it.
What I'm shooting for
No, John.
is putting the menu up on top, and then having perhaps like a slideshow, and I would also welcome any pictures that you have of the city to contribute to making a slideshow on there, making it a little bit more attractive and appealing.
Trailer.
The historical.
Me and the trailer.
Has a lot of, the Luck Library has millions of photos, but I don't see how you can fit all of those across the top.
That's why I want to eliminate some of them, or map certain links so that, all the permits are under permits, there's the municipal code, there's,
Can we get overtime?
put it, put more relevant information under certain links.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll check it out. We'll bring it
back with the design
bring it back
stuff.
again for that.
It's late.
Comment?
Come on.
Come on. Come
You
on,
weren't
Robert.
even here for the whole meeting.
I know. It was the high point of my evening.
Okay, let's bring it, staff?
No.
No,
Chris?
sir. No, sir.
Yeah,
You dare.
I do. This memo we got from the sheriff about the bike busing,
Uh-huh.
down below it says top headers are having a poker run. Do they need a permit for that?
No.
What do you mean, no?
They're just driving through town, aren't they?
No, they're going to different places in town.
If they just stop as one of the stops, they don't need it. But if this is the destination, they need it.
Yeah,
Right.
just a question that came up.
Anything else?
30 days on this.
Move to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote?
You never asked her if she had any comments.
Yeah, she said no. She said no.